Welcome to the first episode of Appalachian Dim Sum Podcast. Hey, Joel.
How's it going?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the name?
Yeah, so Appalachian Dim Sum is a kind of a random idea we came up with when we used to work together. Had an idea of a restaurant, maybe / food truck that we might do one day because we both like to eat, dim sum. We joked about because of where we're from, making it an Appalachian themed one where it would be, instead of shrimp and the things you might find in a normal Chinese dim sum restaurant, like making it squirrel and deer, rabbit, things that you could find in Southwest Virginia. And of course,
deer bow sounds great.
Of course, it would be a little difficult to source that, so that never came in. Yeah. That and our jobs at the railroad left and went to Atlanta, and we did not. So,
and honestly, the last thing I'd ever want to do is do anything that involved the health department. I don't want to deal with them,
especially if it involved squirrels and rabbits.
Right. So, where'd you get this squirrel? My backyard.
On the way here. But yeah, that's where the whole name came from, and because we've never used it as a restaurant idea, kind of brought the idea back up when we started talking about doing a podcast, and just relation to dim sum itself is, just the general Chinese phrase for comfort food. And I think the way that we grew up, me kind of isolated out here in Southwest Virginia in the country, I think you were moving around with...
I was military brat.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
But I grew up on G.I. Joe and He-Man and Transformers, things like that, in a world with 2 channels. So to access any of that, we had to go rent a VCR. And that just became sort of my comfort food growing up. I would rent the same G.I. Joe movie, the same Voltron movie, every time that we rented a VCR, and watch it all weekend until we had to take it back. And that kind of started my love for animation and kind of sci-fi and everything else imaginary. And in between rentals, I would spend all my time playing outside, reenacting all those things. And I think that kind of ties back into just growing up. Those are still sort of comfort things, a lot of movies that are remaking some of those properties, and going back and finding the old stuff and rewatching it, sharing it with my kids. It's kind of become my comfort food.
Dim sum means something about full heart.
Yeah, it translates to touch the heart.
Touch the heart.
I think is a direct translation there. So.
Well, I think that really describes this sorts of media. It touches the heart. Yeah. And not just, yes, sometimes it's because it's sentimental or it's endearing or something like that, but just the existence of the media and what it means to me and people like us as we grew up, the nostalgia feeling.
Yeah.
When I see something, and I see a new figure of a new Ninja Turtle, that touches my heart.
Yeah.
There's a particular figure, Slash.
Yes.
Remember the snapping turtle?
I was a little ahead of you on that.
A little bit.
Ninja Turtles came along about the time I was probably getting into maybe 9th, 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been a little bit weird for me to walk around high school with my Ninja Turtles.
I was at the comic store the other day and I saw a Slash figure, and it touched my heart. I was like, oh, that's wonderful. I didn't get it, but it's just nice to see.
Yeah. And to take that a step further, that's probably what kind of got me into anime, because G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers are not anime, they're animation,
right,
but not like the Japanese stuff. But getting into Japanese animation and seeing how much thought and creativity go into those things and how emotional some of them are, keeps me interested in that as an adult, because I see stuff that they make that just kind of blows away anything that you will ever see in a Western theater by a Hollywood company. And that comes from shows like we're getting ready to talk about today to, fully animated movies that are meant to be serious, that some of which, I can't, with my wife and kids in the theater, I'm sitting there the whole time like, yeah, there's nothing to buy.
Well, I know in America, a lot of the animation, especially the animation of the 80s and the 90s, was made to sell products.
Yeah.
It was like, well, we have this toy that we want to sell, so let's make a cartoon.
Absolutely.
And it's just, 30 minutes of advertising, interspersed with advertising for other products.
Yeah.
In Japan, is that the goal with their animation?
No, it usually seems like, or to me, it seems like animation always follows, the books, the manga, especially. So it kind of comes out for something to consume, people to consume. There's people that have subscriptions to weekly books that give you multiple animes and stuff, almost sort of like a serial running, almost like a comic that they get, and I guess they've learned to capitalize on that with the animation styles and stuff that have gotten crazy over the years. But yeah, I definitely think they've got a different approach to it than we've had.
Especially considering the manga to anime translation. I mean, it's almost one for one a lot of times.
Very, very often. Doesn't stray very much. If it does, it's maybe just because they're editing. Because I guess the most recent one that comes to mind is Chainsaw Man. I think they even blurred one of the scenes in the animation because it was just too much to show on TV. And when you watch a lot of anime and see what they do show, it kind of makes you think, wow, what could they not show?
Yeah.
That was a scene where a guy was throwing, or a girl threw up another guy's mouth. That was awful, but
okay.
Yeah, different conversation for a different show.
Definitely. That's I don't know what you would call it. It's definitely not fan service.
No, that was just gross.
Yeah, just gross. So that makes me think of like Game of Thrones, how the show, as far as I'm aware anyway, tried to follow the novels, but then the last season came about and the novel is still not out for that would be the last season.
Yeah.
And so they just made stuff up.
That's my understanding. I've never watched it, but I understood that it's great until they ran out of books.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I watched it all the way to the end. That's accurate.
Yeah.
But like with anime, they'll stop. Like if they catch up with the manga, they'll stop and wait for the manga, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've heard that complaint before. It's like, well, the manga author needs to hurry up because we need the anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't really think of any comic book in America that got translated very close 1-to-1 into a cartoon.
Maybe the 80s X-Men kind of, but not really.
I honestly, I was a fan of the cartoon, but really not the comic, so I don't know.
I think by the time we came along too, if you think about all the Marvel and DC stuff, when it was originally written, by the time
30 years of content
before, or by the time we came along, they had already gotten into retelling the same story with a different spin on it.
Yeah.
And now that's all they know how to do, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. But that's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about on the podcast.
Yeah, it's not just anime. It might be movies.
Yeah.
I don't know there'll be so many TV series as much because I don't think we do that. But as we've stayed friends, met at the railroad as dispatchers, found that we had a lot of common interest in a lot of this stuff. We watch a lot of the same things, but it's not very often the same thing. It's kind of more, I'll see something and text him. It's like, hey, Randy, did you see this? And you're usually like, nope.
Yeah, usually.
No, man. And he counters with something else, often more times from video game stuff, and we'll talk about that as well, that I don't see very much just because I'm not as much of a gamer. Don't have the systems to keep up with it. But I think that mix of what you find and what I find kind of blends together pretty well into exposing each other to new stuff that's related but not the same, and expanding our horizons.
Yeah,
I guess. When you get to be 50 years old and somebody can still expand your horizons, you're like, yes.
All right. And one of the issues we've had over the past couple of years is just getting together.
Yeah.
More and more time seems to have passed in between the meetups, in between just talking, and I've missed you. So the idea for this podcast is we want to have something that is on the schedule to get together, and we're doing something.
Yeah.
And it kind of encourages us to get together and just hang out.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're planning on about once a month. That's what we're thinking right now.
Yep.
That's what our schedules can handle. And we're learning about all this. This is actually serendipitous. It is Groundhog Day. This is take 2 of all of this. Audio issues, and neither of us are professionals at this. We're learning. I'm sure everything will change as we do this. But we had an audio issue, and it was garbage. The audio was garbage. I could not salvage it. Maybe someone more knowledgeable than me could salvage it, but I could not salvage it.
And the frustrating part, excuse me, is went through all sorts of testing and trying out mics and all that, and just come back to the fact that, well, let's just unhook everything and use the phone.
Yeah, we're just using the iPhone right now. I had downloaded audio programs, had 2 separate mics, and sounded like we were in a tanker or something.
I think the universal thing from years of being a police officer, teaching people to dispatch at the railroad, to coaching kids sports is always the keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. That I could have used that mantra at the beginning of all this.
Trying to be high tech though.
Yeah. We're trying to do it right, but we'll do it this way until we find a better way. But like Joel said, I'm more into I'm into anime. I'm into video games. I'm into comics. More video games. That video games really take up more of my time than either of the other two. And all this stuff I've really been into since the 90s. I'm a media kid of the 90s. I love the Ninja Turtles.
You definitely got into anime way before me. Like you'll tell me about old stuff that I've never even heard of, because it was literally, in some cases, decades before I ever even started watching anime.
You started with?
I started with, if you don't count like a film that I just called it random, like Princess Mononoke. Mm-hmm. Just came on AMC one weekend. They were highlighting Miyazaki, and it was like, well, okay, I'll watch this. And it was like, wow, that's like the best movie I've seen in the last 15 years. But I started with Attack on Titan, because as our kids were growing up, we did all the Star Wars, Clone Wars stuff, Avatar: The Last Airbender, started getting them into animation, and as they aged up, they kind of wanted to get something that wasn't just a Nickelodeon show. We all heard about Attack on Titan, and I was like, that's fine, but I've got to preview it to see. So I started watching episodes of it to see if it was okay, was reporting back to the wife and telling her about it, and we agreed to go ahead and start watching it with our son Logan. And that really got me hooked. After that, it was like, this is ridiculous that I'm watching this thing that comes on Saturday night at midnight on Cartoon Network, and it's better than anything that I've seen or I've paid to see for the last 5 years. And I think from there, and maybe Death Note was the next one. And then just started going through series. Like we got into the Fate Zero series, and it just one led to the other after that. But it was always, I watched every one of them twice, because I had to watch at least the first 3 or 4 episodes to make sure we weren't getting into something weird before we could watch it together. So I kind of came into it from the side, definitely late in the process.
That is a concern with anime. That isn't a concern with most Western media.
Yeah.
That's broadcast media. Yeah, the different sensibilities for sure.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons I really gravitated toward anime in the 90s. Was I was watching Saturday morning anime on the Sci-Fi Channel back when it was SCI-FI.
Yeah.
I hated when they changed that, the way they spelled that.
I don't think I'd ever even seen cable yet at that point.
And I caught all sorts of things, and I'm sure it was edited for television, but one of the ones I remember, it was Demon City. That was one of the first times I recognized that this is different from the other animation stuff I've seen.
I think that had to have been edited for television.
It was probably heavily edited.
I've seen, gone back and seen those, and again, another topic for another show.
But I was enthralled. Little me was enthralled by the violence of it, and I was like, this is violent cartoons. Yes, please. I want to see more of this.
What I loved about those series, and again, we don't want to dive too deep into those, is those were like Michael Mann, Miami Vice, just that 80s theme of sort of police drama that were through those things. They need to go back and do those again, because those were awesome.
As an adult, I've come to appreciate the style, both writing and artistic style of 80s, 90s anime a lot more.
Yeah.
And I really only in the past couple of years I've gone back and really started comparing them and realizing how different it is.
Yeah.
And especially the mechanics, like the way, just like the computers looked, the way the machines looked, the way the mechs looked, the stuff of beauty.
Yeah.
But I've pretty much stayed an anime fan since the 90s, watching stuff here and there. Comic books I get into and out of. I don't necessarily stay into comics. It seems to be I'll stay 5 years or so. I'll be really into it, and then I'll stop reading comics for a few years. I'll get back into it.
Yeah.
So I fear that's going to be a lifelong struggle for me.
Yeah, comics are. It really just depends on it. If you find a good one, it's easy to get hooked, but it's also easy to spend a lot of money on just stuff that's just content. It's just like TV series, or just some of them are just waste of time.
I think one of my problems with comic books is it gets overwhelming. You'll start like, oh, well, I like this comic, and you'll start reading that comic, and in order to really know what's going on, well, now you have to read this series over here, or now there's a sequel series. Oh, there's 2 sequel series.
Or you can make the mistake I made at the local store here in Roanoke, that I got into the Dark Times when Star Wars spin off from Dark Horse. It was supposed to basically be Darth Vader's immediately after being Darth Vader series. I was like, yeah, pull those for me. So they pulled those, but then as they were Dark Horse or whatever, I'm pretty sure it was Dark Horse, as they were doing that, they were putting out little side things to go with it and all that. And I literally came in like 2 months later to pick up what I thought would be 4 issues, and had a stack of books like there. It was like, well, we pulled all these for you. And it was like, okay, I need to be a little more specific.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't plan on spending $400 today.
Yeah, the last time I just started getting back into comics was because of the IDW Ninja Turtle series.
Yeah.
I had not, because it's been going on since like the early 2000s or the mid-aughts. And I didn't get into it at the time, but I kept seeing more and more about it. I was like, I want to read this. So I started reading it. And I told the comic shop, I was like, just give me all the IDW Ninja Turtle stuff. That was a mistake.
That's where they come out with a wheelbarrow. Like,
yeah.
Hang on, I got the second trip for you. I'll be right back.
I mean, they got like Ninja Turtles and Naruto. I understand the context of having those both, but I don't care to read that.
Well, getting back to the show.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain, because this is really your baby, of how you came up with the format for the show. And he texted it to me, and I was like, that's perfect. I was like, there needs to be no discussion about this, because this is exactly how I would love to do this.
Okay, well, keeping with the theme of Appalachian dim sum, it's kind of a menu. And this is the introduction or the appetizer. We're going to have the appetizer.
We probably won't do such long introductions, but since this is the first one, we wanted to give you a little bit of background about
who we are,
and where we came from here.
Yep. The introduction will just introduce to the podcast, and normally it'll probably just be a few minutes. Then we're going to have the appetizer, and that's going to be what we're currently watching, playing, reading, like what we're currently into. Then we're going to have the main course, and that's going to be a topic of discussion that we're going to kind of dive a little deep into. It could be just a series. It could be a concept or more of a thought piece, such as like what film properties were just completely mishandled. I've got one in my mind right now. We'll leave that for later.
I've got lots of them.
This month is Dandadan.
Yes.
We both watched Dandadan, and we're both eager to talk about it. We enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yes.
After the main course is kind of like a dessert, and that's really what we're looking forward to. And what we are anticipating, it might not necessarily lead into the next podcast. If I'm looking forward to something specifically that's coming up, but I don't get to it, I might not talk about it next time.
And some things I'm already looking forward to are pretty far down the road.
So,
yeah. And sometimes you get some pretty long dry spells, so there might not be anything until like a June release of something. So
now, one thing, this isn't. I'll bring this up later. There is one thing we're going to talk about that I'm looking forward to that isn't necessarily upcoming. It's just something I noticed yesterday. Okay. And I'm like, I'm going to check that out. So we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And then we have a fortune cookie, and it's going to be a random decision of what we talk about next time. We stuff some fortune cookies with topics, and we'll choose one at random, and we'll find out when you find out. And that's going to be it. You got the intro, appetizer, main course, dessert, and fortune cookie. In between a couple of those, we're actually going to try some actual food. And it could be just Appalachian food. It could be just food we like. It could be something we make. We both brought something today, and we'll share it with you. And
I promise I won't clean like any deer or fish.
Not on camera.
Not on camera.
And we'll share it. We'll share the food with you and tell you why we like it. And in between the courses, we'll eat the food and we'll let you know what we think.
That's got it covered.
Okay, well.
Genius idea, I think.
All right, well, this is the end of the intro. See you for the appetizer. All right, welcome to the appetizer. Joel, what did you bring today?
I brought, sticking with our Appalachian theme, we're here just outside of Fincastle, Virginia, and downtown Fincastle, which is all of, 2 streets, I guess. There's a Heritage Family Market that is a German Baptist-run market where they make fresh foods, desserts. They have sandwiches at lunchtime, stuff like that. One of the things we discovered there is they make a pimento cheese that redefines pimento cheese. The little orange stuff you get in a tub at the grocery store is something else. They actually have expanded it to the point that they're starting to make flavors of it. Like they have a Southwestern, there's like a smoked bacon. I think the original one is always just extra sharp cheddar, but brought some of that. This is the Southwestern one. Already got it open. They come in a little tub container, and it's ridiculous. I don't know whether that or their chicken salad is, if I had to choose one as my last thing I might eat on the way out of this earth, it would be a coin flip probably on those two. If I could have them both, I would just mix them all together and just eat them both. But
I'm looking forward to trying this.
They add spice, very creamy. It's one of those things you can put on a sandwich. Half the time we just eat it on Tostitos because we're in Southwest Virginia and that's just what we do. We don't care if it's couth or not. It's actually good enough. There's a chain here, has a restaurant out in Daleville called the Tap House. I think they're down in Blacksburg and other places like that. Kind of gourmet burgers. They serve one of their burgers they have here, and I don't know if they offer it anywhere other than this one at Daleville, is a pimento cheese burger with the cheese from the Heritage Market on it. And it is, it's very rare that I go there that I get something other than that burger, even though they have some nice options. But that's just the one that every time I'm like, nope, I gotta have that again.
You might need to go there sometime. That sounds good.
It is. They even have I think that's the only other time I've branched out away from this once I tried that, was they have like a Krabby Patty, some kind of crab salad on it that's also insanely good. I don't know where that comes from. But
not non-copyright infringing?
Yeah, they probably spell it with one B.
There you
or
go.
Something.
Or a C, maybe?
It could be.
Isn't it a K on SpongeBob?
That's probably it.
Yeah, that's probably it.
But yeah, this is as soon as we talked about getting something from the area and this being the Appalachian show, I was like, I'll be right back.
There you go. Well, that's great. We're going to try that after after we go through the topics for the appetizer.
You got this much going on, you don't want to be eating
Not
cheese
on
on
camera.
crackers.
Clean it off.
So, but that is our lead in the appetizer portion of the show, which is
what we're watching.
What we're watching, what we're
Playing,
playing, reading, and I have some of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I'm just kind of doing one thing at a time, but I just got back from MagFest, which is a big show for us, for my business. And the one thing that I take there every time, because it's a huge video gaming show, is I take my old Nintendo 3DS for Street Passes. And I got and I forgot to check it half the time. You can get 10 Street Passes at a time. I think I got 40 while I was there, because you get your 10, clear them out, and then you can get 10 more, and then you can go play the little mini games. Those mini games are one of my favorite things to play. I guess because they're not dependent on online connectivity, they haven't been canceled by Nintendo, because everything else that you used to have to log on to, you can't do anymore.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So you can still go play the game. And all your records and stuff that you get, I guess, still pass over to somebody else that you Street Pass, which, sorry to anybody that plays the fishing game. I play the fishing game like a maniac, and I have 7,000 catches. So I pretty much take over all of your list whenever you Street Pass me. But again, that's just, we went to Japan in 2014 when that was at its peak, and you could get on the Japan rail train and just, you'd get 10 in seconds, clear those off, and you get another 10 because everybody had one. And that really got me hooked on those games, all those little mini games. There's puzzle pieces that you could collect through the games and stuff like that. So of all the technology that's out there, that's what I've been playing. I've been playing a video game system from, 2012, 13, somewhere around there.
Well, nothing wrong with that. I've been playing Resident Evil on the Vita.
Like the original one.
Like the original Resident Evil on the Vita. I've dabbled in all of the Resident Evil games. The only one I've ever actually got to the end to was Resident Evil 4. Yeah. And I've always wanted to play the older ones. I just never got around to it, and I decided to give it a go because I started reading the novelization, and I started getting to a point in the book where I was like, well, do you play the game or do you read the book first?
That's almost the problem with anime. It's like, do you read the manga
Yeah.
or do you just watch the show?
And some movies.
Yeah.
But what I decided was I was going to not read the book because I thought the book might tell me what to do in the game, as almost like a walkthrough.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went and I've been playing Resident Evil. It's been good.
Resident Evil 2 was my first non-Nintendo video game. That's why I bought a PlayStation 2, because I'd seen that through a thing I've told you about before, which isn't appropriate for this conversation. It's from a encounter in police work that was not pleasant. But
PlayStation 2 or 1?
I guess that was 1.
It had to be 1.
It was 1
because it was on 1. I don't know if it ever got released on 2.
Because I bought it used from a game, so it was a 2-disc release of it.
Yeah, so that was
that was on 1.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah, that was a long time ago.
I plan on playing the other ones once I actually can finish Resident Evil. That's one of those games where I've started it maybe 10 times since I bought it back in the 90s.
I bought it after Resident Evil 2 and went and played it, and I doubt I got a quarter of the way through it. It was so hard to play compared to number 2. I was just like, I can't do this. It's like I want to shoot stuff, and all they want you to do is run.
Yeah, you got to get past the desire to kill the things.
Yeah.
That's the only way I've ever been able to make any kind of progress. And I don't know what the creatures are called. They might be lickers, but no, they're not lickers. That's in the second one.
Yeah.
They're like these big bestial things that are just all over the property now, and I'm having to like kill them when I approach them because they're very fast and they jump on you.
I don't think I ever got that far. I think I ran around inside. Do you get to like a big spider in the first one, or is that maybe that's the second one?
Yeah, I think that's the second one.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got past anything.
Did you ever get to
other.
the big plant?
No.
Okay.
No, I think I just like shot at the first like several zombies that I came and realized that I had no ammunition, and got to a point where something just mauled me. And I was like, nope.
You have the mansion, and then you have like the courtyard, and then you have like the guest house.
I never got that far.
I'm at the part now to where I'm in the guest house, and I think I need to go back to the mansion, but I'm out of ink ribbons, so I can't save halfway between. And the way when you have limited saves, the way I do it is I always like next save, and I'm trying to decide on whether or not I need to load an earlier save from a few hours earlier to try to play a little better.
I love the idea of just running for your life and stopping and be like, ooh, a typewriter.
Yeah.
Hang on one second, guys.
I've got to record my memoirs.
That's classic. That's what you're playing?
Yeah,
Yeah. As far as watching, going back in, I think I'm into the 3rd season now of the old Bleach show.
Okay.
It's one of my son's favorite. I think that's the first manga that I think that he ever got and read all the way through. I'll say his name wrong. Is it Johnny Lee Bosch?
No idea.
The guy that's the voice of just about everything in anime. Johnny Young Bosch, right?
Johnny Young Bosch, okay.
Yeah. He was at a show. We got him to sign the last issue of the manga for our son. So he's always been a big fan of it. They came out with a newer series a couple years ago that he's been watching. He told me, he's like, I should watch that. I was like, I think I watched one episode with him and it was really cool, but I just decided I'm going to go back and do the whole thing. I don't want to jump into this thing in the middle of it and not kind of get references and all that. So I'm in the middle of I don't know, was it 400 or 500 episodes to get all the way through it?
It was 2004 to 2023, so
yeah,
20 years.
Yeah, and that may include the 100 Years War, the newer season of it. But
okay,
definitely, talking about older anime styles, it had to be one of the groundbreaking things with kind of going from that kind of goofy 80s, 90s anime style to adding in really amazing like monsters and stuff like that, and it gets pretty heavy for an older series like that.
366 episodes.
Yeah. I'm maybe in the 50s or 60s at this point, so I got a little ways to go. But it's fun. Everybody says that you can watch it, look up a list of the ones that you need to watch, so you can skip all the fluff, and I don't have that kind of time to go through and try to keep track of a list like that, so I'm just watching it all, and you can tell you get to some, it's like, wow, this is a fluff one, but it's a good series. And you can already see it just by the third season starting to improve with not being afraid to tell a little bit more of adult or advanced storylines and becoming more intense with the animation and stuff like that. But it keeps that goofy comedy mixed in with it as well. So,
see, I have a really hard time diving into any series with that many episodes. That's insane.
I literally sat there on the menu of Hulu for like the better part of a week, just flipping back and forth between that and One Piece and maybe something else. And I was like, maybe I'll just try this episode. And no, I'm not. So it took me a while to even just make the decision to jump in and just start trying to swim through these. But it's fun. I like it.
See, back when I got into anime, one of the things that I liked about it was it seemed like it was limited. Like they would tell limited stories and they would be just a few episodes long. Now you kind of consider those like OVAs.
Yeah.
Like Dominion Tank Police, I think it's like 4 episodes. And I really like that just tight story. Here's what we're telling you, and it's done. Move on, find something else.
Yeah.
And I remember Dragon Ball Z was out in the early 2000s, and I had a friend who was really into it, and he would tell me about it, and it seemed really interesting. And he showed me his collection. He had VHS tapes, and it was just like all along he had it on his wall near the ceiling. It had a shelf. And it just lined his room. And I'm like, I can't get into that. It's just too much. It's too much of a commitment to get into that. And there are people who've gone through Dragon Ball, gone through Bleach, gone through One Piece.
There's people I see at shows all the time that are half my age that have watched everything, and I'm like, wow.
I mean,
impressive.
One Piece is 1,120. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got that one in me. I don't think I'd want to. I probably can't go the cheating route and try to like watch the Netflix interpretation of it just because I don't like those. But people said that was good, but that's fine. Some people like spinach. I don't.
I have heard that there are people who have taken it upon themselves to watch it at like 2 times speed. Like that's how they're getting through all this anime, is they're watching it fast. And I don't know. That's a little manic for me. I don't know if I could do that. My brain is too slow at this point for that sort of thing.
I do like to watch stuff. Just generally speaking, anime. I do like to watch the Japanese with the subtitles, but more recent stuff has gotten better.
Okay, you're sub over dub. See, I'm dub over sub. Well, that might be a topic for another day.
I'm watching Bleach, the dubbed one, so I can do other things while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because that's the limitation on doing that, is you just have to just sit there and try to keep up with the subtitles if you watch it that way. And Bleach is light enough in the thinking that you don't have to just be sitting there hanging on everything that happens in every word said. Like I said, sometimes in a complete episode was one that you could completely do without, but yeah. So that's my watching right now.
Now, I have one series I've tried to get into, and it's slow going, is Clone Wars. And you said that there are like critical episodes you can watch in Bleach that people can say, well, you don't have to watch these episodes, but you can watch these episodes if you want to just know the story. With Clone Wars, they have a watch order, so you don't watch it in the order it was actually released, but you kind of skip around.
That makes sense.
Right?
I want homework added with my TV, TV series, please.
And there was actually one episode, I think it's like episode 2 of the first season, where Yoda's on this like moon with these big mushrooms, and they're just kind of him and the clones are going from one location to another, and they're trying the Sith is trying to stop them.
Yeah.
And watching in order, you're like, what's the point of this? But watching in the I don't know what they call it, the like the machete cut of Clone Wars, you get information leading to that, like why they're there, and there's an actual setup in a different episode later, like in a different season even.
I'd love to know the thought process behind that production.
Well,
we watched that as it was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that was sort of that son getting out of elementary school age, maybe when that came out. But I said we were watching Avatar. I guess Korra had been released there at some point. We're having to eventually watch that online, which is the first time we ever had to do that. I think at the same time we were maybe watching Symbiotic Titan from Genndy Tartakovsky, however he says his last name.
I'm not going to try.
We had a couple other things, and that became just that extra series that we were trying to watch, and it just didn't always have time to watch it when it came out. We would DVR it. This was back in those days, and you'd get 3 or 4 behind, and it was just, we gave out on it. I always have to try to remember his name. About the time Cad Bane, the blue guy, about the time he was introduced to it. So I think that was maybe his 2nd season, something like that. Enjoyed the show, but we never. I think at one point when we had Netflix, it was on there, and it was the same thing. I looked at it, and I was like, wow, they kept on doing this for a long time. They did like, what, 7 or 8 seasons of it or something?
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I just can't.
You can't.
I can't go back.
Do it.
I wish I had, because I know that it has its moments and probably is one of the most faithful Star Wars things released in the last 15, 20 years, maybe.
I think that's maybe why I got more interested in it, because when it came out, I wasn't too interested in it, because like, it's the animation, that's fine. I watched the Clone Wars animated movie. Yeah. That was okay. I'm not really itching to see more. But and we'll probably get into our thoughts on Star Wars at some point.
They hadn't screwed it up yet, so it wasn't
right.
Yeah.
And I've been itching for more Star Wars content, and I'm like, well, there's this. Let me check this out.
I'm trying to remember the age. I took Logan to. We watched the first movie. We went to watch them in order, even though we had all the old stuff. I didn't want to like start at the end. So, and I think he was young, elementary school. We watched The Phantom Menace. And then Attack of the Clones was 2nd. And then we saw that the 3rd one was coming in the theaters. I was like, I'll take him to the theater. We'll go see that. He was still mid to young elementary school. I don't know if it was 1st grade, maybe 2nd grade. That was maybe one of my worst parenting decisions ever, because he had no idea where that storyline was going, and I got to watch in real time as he saw Anakin kill little children.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. What's he doing?
I literally looked over him at one point in the theater, and he just had this look on his face like, holy crap. I was like, what's happening? And I'm like, uh-oh. It's like,
that's definitely one of the big discussions now when people go to watch Star Wars and they've never seen it. Do they watch it like the original trilogy first, or do they watch the prequels first? I personally don't think there's a wrong way to do it.
We watched the prequels because I think they were kind of geared more towards a younger audience.
Well, George said that. So,
and
yeah.
The age that he was, I think he was right, but he shifted from 1st gear to 5th, from number 2 to number 3.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, with the whole, the race in the desert on the, what do you call them?
The pod racers.
The pod racers. Yeah. I mean, my son loved that, and he actually was like standing up and cheering when he won at the end. Yeah. I mean, it was perfectly geared towards that age. And then we followed up with, let's kill some children. Then kill all the characters that we got into from all the Clone Wars stuff. Yeah. And then it was like, okay. Thanks, George.
One thing I found interesting since I've been trying to get back into the older Star Wars media, is there's a lot of content between Episode 2 and Episode 3.
Okay, yeah.
Hardly anything between Episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the stuff I want to know about. I would love for there to be stories about Anakin as a young Padawan and Obi-Wan as a young Jedi Master trying to steer the Chosen One in the path of the light side. But there's really nothing like that out there. There's some books that have been written recently, and I got an audio book of one of them. I didn't really care much for it, but
yeah.
What else are you into right now?
Reading. I've got we talked about comics a little bit. Kind of a long story. I'll try to make it as short as possible. Being out here in the country, when my access to comics was the little gas station down there had a spinning rack on it that had the most recent release that they could get their hands on of just whatever was popular, I guess. The only time I ever got one is if I was sick at home from school. My dad would stop and get me one on the way home from work. I ended up with a couple pieces of G.I. Joe, but I think the ones I got before that, probably like kindergarten age, in that range, I guess, where Marvel did that run into the 70s, maybe into the early 80s. It was like 26, 27 issues of Godzilla coming through the Marvel universe, and everybody in it, like from the Avengers to the Fantastic Four to the S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, all trying to stop Godzilla. And I had like 2 or 3 random issues of it that I had as a kid, and they just recently they came back and they reissued them all into like an omnibus, so they have them just same story, same artwork, and all just all in one nice collection. And I did just get that, and I've just started reading it. I'm only like 1 or 2 in. He basically came to like Seattle. They repelled him from Seattle, and now he's looping back around, coming towards San Francisco. And so far it's just been S.H.I.E.L.D. agents responding to it. I think we had to look him up when we were talking about him. The main character so far was like Dum Dum Duggan. And he's like the big handlebar dude from wasn't he in Captain America?
Yeah, Dum Dum Duggan. Yeah, he was in Captain America, the first Avenger.
Got the little derby hat and the mustache. Maybe he was like a heavy machine gunner or something in that movie. I forget. He was the big tough guy in the group, but he's like leading S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's kind of cool to see the older portrayal of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Air base that they have, the big air battleship that they have. It's just like a huge, like it looks like a square building and has little propellers on top of it flying around. The old interpretation being a guy's coming down and using all the S.H.I.E.L.D. technology to try to repel Godzilla.
Now, I only really know him from the Howling Commandos from the MCU.
Yeah.
Was that a part of that group of people fighting Godzilla?
No.
Were there other Howling Commandos, or was it just him?
I don't know the other Marvel stuff well enough to know, but it was Nick Fury and him, a couple other people on his team, but I don't know if they were part of the Commandos.
Right.
But yeah, it's cool because like where I picked it up in the comic series that I had as a kid, the first issue I had, they were in New York with him, and Godzilla, they'd shrunk him, and he was like, I think down to like the size of a mouse. I didn't have that one.
A mouse.
But then like whatever it did started to wear off, so he starts to grow back. So I had an issue of where they're trying to, I think it was the Fantastic Four guys, are trying to get him out of New York and get him without people seeing him or something. And they had him in like a trench coat and like one of those old FBI hats or something, like an old private investigator hat, like trying to sneak him out of stuff. And
looking like Raphael in the Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm surprised like there aren't statues of that. That sounds hilarious.
It's an amazing concept, and Godzilla with Toho and stuff is very rarely ever licensed to anybody outside of Toho. But they did it. I've never gone back to really read how they worked all that out. It's probably just that was kind of a downtime for Godzilla production and stuff. They'd kind of gotten into these really goofy 70s movies where he was just doing kung fu and stuff.
Doing that flying kick.
So it probably wasn't like, it's okay, you guys can have the license. And now they wouldn't let you have it for anything. I think they'll actually
a little more sacred now.
I think I read somewhere about like a beer brand that like used the image of Godzilla on it, like some private thing out west or some little like mini brewery. And like Toho sued them and made them cease and desist using. I don't think it was even using a name. It was just an image that it kind of looked like Godzilla. So.
Okay. Surprised Pokemon gets away with it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's my reading. I'm not too far into that, but I'm just taking my time with that because that's one that's literally been 40 years in the making to ever get all of that in one place. And I have gone and collected all of the actual issues.
Individual issues.
Because I'm at shows all the time. I spent the better part of a year going from comic booth to comic booth. Like, hey, do you have issue? Do you have any Godzilla? Do you have this issue? And I finally found them all. But some of them are pretty old and fragile. So they're just in a box. But
that's definitely something, the collector's penchant is what I call it. Then the getting all the pieces and then finally getting the collection together and completing that. That does something psychologically.
Being willing to pay for the number one and then the last one.
Yeah.
That was what I found out. I actually found really nice copies of those. Some of my middle ones are a little ratty, but
and it's almost like completing a quest, completing a task.
It is.
Because I've bought complete sets before, and it's like,
it's not as fun.
It's not as fun, not nearly as satisfying.
Especially when you go to somebody that markets himself at a show as like they're a comic dealer and all that. It's like, hey, do you have that like late 70s Marvel Godzilla? And they're like, what? And I'm like, never mind.
Yeah.
But you also learn to look for the guys that are like my age or older, the guys that run those things. Because like, I think I've got one over there in that dollar box. I'm like, hang on a second. You flip through. It's like, yes.
Now, have you read the entire series?
I have not.
So you have the individual issues. You don't want to read some of the more fragile ones. The omnibus is how you're doing it.
I collected it. I knew the omnibus. Welcome to Southwest Virginia, where 3 silver words are a real struggle. I have that and saw the announcement back when they said they were going to do it. And I immediately told my wife, I was like, that's what I want for Christmas. I don't care if it's just $10 or whatever. I don't need anything else. Just give me that. And she very promptly got it when it came out, and I got it for Christmas. So I'm just taking my time whenever I've got time to sit down and enjoy it.
I've done that with my family because people who collect geek culture, people in general, their families always have a hard time buying them stuff because they don't know what to buy you.
Yeah.
They don't know what you have. They don't know what you want. And I've taken to giving my family just, here's this omnibus collection. Berserk is what I've given them. I'm like,
I see that all the time. And I've not pulled the trigger on that, but I see it. Every time I see it, it's like,
I absolutely loved the anime when I accidentally saw it back in the early 2000s. We'll go over that another time.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to read the manga. I've only seen clips and stuff like that or screenshots, and that was one of the things I told him. I was like, well, here, look, this has like 14 volumes or something. Just get me one of these, and the next time get me the next one.
Yeah,
it's pretty good for the omnibuses are good for families. And a question about that Marvel Godzilla. Do you have any idea if Fin Fang Foom is ever involved? Because he's the only Marvel character that size-wise is like Godzilla size.
Does he have some, I don't know a lot of the Marvel universe. Is that like a samurai-looking dude?
It's a big dragon. Is this guy. Fin Fang Foom.
I have no idea. I think there's an issue that I've seen that has a dude in like giant like samurai armor, and is that? Okay,
I don't think so. Yeah, see, he's kaiju size.
Oh yeah.
That'd be, if he's not in there at all, that would be interesting. Let me know.
What's the samurai thing that was like part of the X-Men? Is that
the Silver Samurai? Is that what it's called?
That may be what he's. I don't know. I'm going to get to it as I read through it and just kind of be pleasantly surprised because it's one nice thing about most of the Marvel stuff is I didn't. Yeah. It looks like that. Yeah, for sure.
The Silver Samurai. Yeah, that might be the character that's.
And since they're blowing up or shrinking Godzilla, they may blow up some guys to fight him or something.
Let me know. That sounds pretty awesome. That sounds awesome.
Pretty easy technology for that even happens in like old Godzilla movies. Like Jet Jaguar. They're like, Jet Jaguar just programmed himself to become giant to fight Godzilla. And they're like, how did he do that?
He just did.
Then
technology.
When the fight's over, it's like, he just returned to normal size. He's not needed anymore. And it's like, okay. I love that you can just write that into a line and that's it. And it's like, we're not going to explain it any further. We don't need to. There it is.
Well, keep with Marvel. I've been reading. I read Rogue Savage Lands #1, and I heard about this a few months ago that Rogue Savage Lands was getting a miniseries.
That's Rogue X-Men Rogue.
Rogue X-Men Rogue. Yes.
Yeah.
Gambit Rogue.
Yeah.
Yep. And there are a couple. I don't really read Marvel like X-Men, X-Force, like the big team up kind of comic series, just because it's too much. Kind of like with the TV series. If it's something that's hundreds of issues long, I'm generally not interested in, just because it's just there's too many things that catch my interest for me to focus on one thing for that long. But I heard about Rogue Savage Land coming out as a miniseries, and I assumed what it was is her going back to the Savage Lands, because I remember back in the 90s hearing about Rogue going to a place called the Savage Lands. You know, I saw the art of her in like K-Woman looking outfit, or her outfit all tore up.
I think was it 90s when they did the cartoon?
Yeah.
Or late 80s, early 90s?
It was in the 90s. Yeah, it started like 90.
There's an arc, and it's been so long since I've seen that, where they are in the Savage Lands.
That might have been where I first saw it.
Something, I thought it was kind of maybe with Storm.
Could have been.
But maybe Rogue as well. I don't know. It seemed to me like there were a lot of those little sub-stories they told on that show that did come from little comic arcs, but I don't.
The feeling I always got from the X-Men cartoon in the 90s was that they would take arcs from the comic and like do that arc. But then they would do their own thing, and they would take another arc, and they would do that arc. It was like they interspersed the arcs.
I remember the little pterodactyl guys, but that's kind of stretching the bounds of my memory on that. I have not been able to find that to rewatch it for a long time. So I saw that back when I was maybe early high school, I think was when that was out. So
this guy Sauron.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a scientist that wants to turn everybody into dinosaurs. I don't know if it's an actual a panel in an actual comic. I hope it is, but I've seen this scan where it's someone asking him, with your DNA technology, you could cure cancer, and he says, "I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs." All right.
You got priorities.
Exactly. But apparently, what it seems like anyway is this series that is going on now is just telling what happened while Rogue was in the Savage Lands. So it's just like more of her in the Savage Lands. And as I was reading, I had to go and check. I went and Googled that because it wasn't what I expected. But it's great. I'm enjoying it. Rogue has her mannerisms and the way of speaking, like instead when she says "I," they write it out as like "ah."
So it's actually still kind of like I don't even know if my impression of X-Men stuff is even accurate. It's just mine's all based off of the cartoon because that's the main thing. But
that's mostly my impression as well.
But it's kind of still that Rogue.
Yeah. It's the Southern Belle kind of character. Yeah. But I'm enjoying it. I don't know how many issues it is. I think it's like 5. It's not very long.
That's enjoyable too. That it's short story.
Yeah, I like things that end.
Too much to be jammed into one story, but I'm sure it'll make a nice little mini trade.
And I'm sure if you're reading the X-Men series, there's like a reason to read this.
I had the lady at the comic book shop in Roanoke years ago, pulling werewolf series for me. Mm-hmm. And almost everything that she would pull would be like that. Maybe between 4 and maybe 8 at the most. Mm-hmm. And it'd always be a pretty closed story. Because most werewolf stories are, you become one, you struggle against it, and
wreak havoc, and then you get killed.
Somebody kills you. But yeah, I like especially if it's good, you can go back and read it anytime you want to, and it's not going to be a big time drain to go back and pick up 6 issues. There's an amazing one, and again, I'm talking to a 50-year-old trying to get him to remember stuff. There was a retelling of the Odyssey that was only about 6 issues, but it was basically a dude coming back from kind of like an Iraq war, but it was like an Iraq war that went south, and like the whole world got kind of taken out. I don't remember the name of that series. I'll have to look it up for the future, but I go back and read that series all the time because it is just so good, and it's too much story to be 1 or 2 issues, so whatever it was, 6 or 7 or something like that. it's just a perfect building of story and closure, and it didn't really have to get that creative with it because it really is just the retelling of the Odyssey. The thing that always stands out to me in that is the Cyclops was like this big Russian dude with a night vision goggle. So he just had like the one eye, and he was a guy that was just like hunting people on an island at nighttime.
I appreciate when things are like modernized like that, but they try to like try to keep it true.
Yes.
It's not like in Solomon's Odyssey?
No, this actually wasn't even a werewolf thing. It was just like another little story about like a marine, but it was just a little short one. Okay. It was like Infinite something. I'll look it up some other time, and I've got it upstairs. I can look it up the old-fashioned way. Going up and
actually go look it up.
Open the box and pull the comic out. But yeah, that's cool.
One of the other things I'm watching is Dune Prophecy. You know, I'm a big Dune fan.
Oh yeah.
We went and saw the Villeneuve Dune in the local theater.
Yes.
And you've seen the second one, right?
I've seen the first one probably 3 times, and I think I've seen the second one twice now. I think because I travel so much, I think I caught the second one after it started. Okay. I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and watch it. And I caught it all the way through a second time. And
now, you're not a fan of the novels or anything like that?
Never read one. Just saw the old series with Sting and...
the Lynch film?
Yes.
And I told you Lynch is dead now?
Yeah.
R.I.P.?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. But, I think a lot of people our age, was our first exposure to Dune, was the Lynch film with the Rock Odyssey in it.
I had it, like... on the VHS, I would rewind it back to where they all gathered, like in the underground cave, and then went and got on the worms and fought. So, like, literally, like the last 30 minutes, I just rewatched that because of the whole thing where they like, and I don't think that's even part of even the books and stuff, is it? Where they screamed through the thing and shot. Yeah, I thought that was amazing.
Book purists hated that at the time.
That was the reason I rewatched it. I was like, that's freaking amazing. So you never have to reload. You just gotta breathe in and let it go.
It's called the Weirding Way, and in the books, it's more like a martial art. It's the Bene Gesserit can control every muscle of their body to the point of being able to almost like shift. Okay. And the Villeneuve film didn't even really do it justice. It's visually, it's more something you see in anime, where like someone would attack you, but the person just kind of like teleports. Visually,
that happens in Bleach a lot.
Okay, yeah.
So
visually, that's kind of when I eventually read the book. That's kind of how I saw it in my mind's eye. Was as you're fighting, someone who knows Parabindu and practices the Weirding Way can almost teleport around because they just like move their muscles all together at one time.
That's awesome. That is cool.
And yeah, that was actually one of the things I was disappointed with the Villeneuve film, is that I didn't feel like the Weirding Way was powerful enough. Okay. It just seemed like, oh, they're good fighters. But it didn't seem supernatural.
How was the prophecy?
Dune Prophecy, so far, is really good. I'm only a couple episodes in.
But that's not based on anything, right?
As far as I understand, it's based on Brian Herbert, one of the prequel novels called Sisterhood of Dune.
Oh, okay. So it does have some kind of literature that is based off of. Yeah,
Brian Herbert has pretty much written like the history of Dune, everything that came before the first novel.
Yeah,
I think he wrote Paul of Dune as well, so he's writing all sorts of stuff. I've only read some of the House novels, which I enjoyed. So I'm a fan of Dune as a property. So I'm kind of open to different interpretations and whatnot. I could pick the Villeneuve Dune apart pretty bad.
Yeah.
Especially with Chani, because in the Villeneuve Dune, Chani was very much in opposition of Paul becoming the Messiah. Mm. In the novel, she's just like, yeah, Paul, go. And she's there for him the whole time. She's they have a baby who dies, and that's not in either of the movies.
Seems like a kind of big thing to leave out.
You'd think, but
I guess maybe that's the thing where at least it's good for somebody like me to just see those things as they are and not have any background in them, because then I don't get to see whatever the possesses people to not just be able to leave a property alone. They have to change the character. I don't care for it, but it's whatever makes them feel better. I guess, as they say in this part of Virginia, bless their little hearts.
Bless their heart. The space between, in the film, the space between Paul joining the Fremen and them attacking the Emperor seems to be like in a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. In the book, it's years.
Yeah.
So that's really one of the big differences. And I understand you got to cut some stuff. But I went into those films saying
there's still montages.
True. They did that they kind of did that in the 1982 film, kind of.
I mean, the show we're getting ready to talk about can cover like an entire thing in 5 minutes.
True. It could have been done if they wanted to. You're right. But when I started watching that, and kind of, it's almost the same with Dune Prophecy, is I said, you know what, I'm going to just take it as it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to nitpick it. I'm just going to be thankful that we get something, because we could not get something. And I think one of the things I like about Dune Prophecy so far is when Game of Thrones ended, I was very much like, use Dune. Make Dune. Dune is your new Game of Thrones. There's novels worth of material here. Yeah. You could go for years. And I think that's kind of what they're doing with Dune Prophecy, because there's some themes and design choices, I would say, that kind of evoke Game of Thrones.
Okay.
So it has kind of like a similar feel.
But it's way back before all the Dune movies.
Thousands of years before the Dune film. Doesn't really matter, because like all the technology is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Dune is in a stagnant technological state because of the whole Butlery and Jihad, with the machines taking over and all that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see that at some point, hopefully, on film. But kind of the way it works in my head is in the novels, the way it's described is it's like the people who own the thinking machines enslaved people. It's like they took over the world, and they were running the world, and they said, why am I spending all my resources to run the world when all these humans are just sitting around, because we're doing all the work for them? So they, instead of using their machines to do the work, they use their machines to enslave people.
When was this written?
In like the 70s. and one of the complaints that some people have about what Brian has done is it seems like it's a bit more like the Matrix or the Terminator, where the machines turn on us.
Yeah.
Don't hold me to that, because I haven't read the novels yet that Brian has written. But that, to me, that even works. Like, you could easily headcanon, like, okay, well, Terminator is years and years and years before Dune, and like the type of stories could match up. If there's not someone out there who's written a fan fiction tying those two together, I would be surprised.
It's amazing to me that somebody in the 70s just described 2024,
Yeah.
2025, but
Yeah.
as we sit here staring into the device that is trying to figure out how to kill us, probably.
We don't heed the warnings that are given to us. That's for sure.
Yep.
But it's, like I said, I'm only a couple episodes into Dune Prophecy. I'm really enjoying it. If you enjoy Dune, I think you'd enjoy Dune Prophecy. That's kind of long and short of it.
I really like the old Dune, and I'm sure that doesn't even measure. It's been so long since I've seen that I'm sure if you watch that now compared to the newer stuff, you're like, ugh.
I've rewatched it a few times since the Villeneuve Dune came out. Nope, holds up.
Does it?
It's great. It's great. I
thought it was.
You're not gonna.
When you get to the time frame that I watched that in, and what it was giving you as a world that they built, and the technology that was in the show and stuff like that, I thought it was amazing. But
now, one thing that you might remember from the Lynch film that wasn't in the Villeneuve film is in the Villeneuve film you never see Guild Navigator, the big fish dude.
Yeah.
He's the guy who navigates through space safely using spice. Yeah, you don't see that in the new films.
Huh.
Which, in all fairness, they don't actually appear in the original novel.
That's hilarious. I forget that Patrick Stewart was in.
And this
is the old one.
At some point, we got to figure out a way to put the images we're looking at on the screen. But there's this image of Patrick Stewart heading into battle, and he has his little pug with him. You see his little pug in the middle of the desert. Okay, that's great.
Why take a camel? You can take a pug.
You can take a pug. Is there anything else you watching, or reading, or anything?
That's about where I am right now.
All right. The only other thing I had to talk about was Astrobot Playroom. Ever play any of the Mario games?
Oh, yeah.
Super Mario?
Yeah, the old stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever play like Mario 64 or Mario Sunshine, like on the GameCube, any of those?
I went from regular Nintendo to getting a Super Nintendo in college.
Okay. Anything after that?
No. Okay. I went from there straight to a PlayStation. I think I traded that Super Nintendo in to get the PlayStation and the copies of Resident Evil 2.
Oh. There you go. Well, Astrobot is very much like PlayStation's Mario right now.
Okay.
But it's It's a full 3D environment, and you explore the environment, and it's really geared toward people who have been like longtime PlayStation fans because it's full of like references.
Okay.
And I'm playing Astrobot's Playroom, which is like a free download when you get a PS5. And I recently got one, and I'm enjoying it. It is one of the best platforming type of platforming game I've ever played.
It's not a runner. It's
a full like mostly 3D world, because the levels, you do start in one spot and you end in another spot, so there is a linearity to it.
But it's
perspective. It's a little wider.
Yeah.
There is a PSVR game from Astro called Rescue Mission. There's another Astrobot on the PS5 that I'm sure I'll get to, but I've really been enjoying it. If you had little kids now,
that'd be a good one.
Absolutely recommend it. It feels like it belongs on the Switch.
Yeah,
it really does.
Cool.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna try out this pimento
let's
cheese.
take a snack break. Have our appetizer finally.
All right, and then we'll come back and talk about our main course.
Yep.
Well, thanks for bringing that pimento cheese. It was pretty good.
Yes.
I kind of want it between two pieces of white bread, though.
It's fine. That way you could toast it. Like I said, you could just stick your hand in it. Probably.
Well, a lot of times with that kind of stuff, the thing you're using, like the chip or the bread or whatever, that's the means to get the other thing to your mouth.
I'm definitely not one to follow for health advice. But something like that, I like to just kind of overcook bacon, make it good and crispy, and just use bacon to scoop that out. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
That's your cholesterol just going, oh.
All right, well, for the main course, I brought wontons in garlic sauce. This is from China Light. It's just a hole-in-the-wall place that we used to order from when we were in dispatch with the railroad. It's great. I love this stuff. And one of the things I like about it is other places you get wontons, garlic sauce, they give you the wontons and they like drizzle the garlic sauce, or they give you like this tiny little cup of garlic sauce.
No, that's like a garlic soup.
Yeah, they drown the wontons in garlic sauce.
I've had their General Tso's. That's almost my go-to every time I get stuff from anywhere like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same way. It had twice as much sauce, which made it amazing.
Oh, yeah. I generally like to keep the sauce and put it on rice or something like that.
Yeah.
So definitely it won't go to waste.
If you don't have anything else, get that white bread and
get the white bread dip. No.
Dip it in there. Again,
oh man,
we are not health experts.
No, not by any means. All right, so our main course discussion is Dandadan.
Yes.
Neither of us are really the type to keep up on the new current anime. I generally live in my backlog, both video games, books, movies. I mean, I watch stuff that's been out a while.
Did I mention I'm watching Bleach?
Yeah, right, exactly. Watching Bleach. So us watching Dandadan is really a testament to the quality of the show, I think.
Yeah, and it did get a lot of buzz around it. I think I was telling you at one point we actually went into our local card shop over the holidays when all three of us were here, my son, my wife, and I, and to just go play in a tournament. And while we were there, we played a little bit of the White Schwartz card game, the anime-based game. Mm-hmm. we saw that they had some Chainsaw Man stuff, so we were buying some of that, and that kind of got us into the anime discussion with the people at the store. And of course, anybody that's around you at a store like that, when you start talking about anything that they're into, they'll just jump in, and that's fine. That's why I like going to places like that. And it shifted to like, have you seen Dandadan? And my son is waiting to watch it with a friend, and he literally will do the fingers in the ears.
I don't want to hear anything.
I don't want any spoilers. I think I hadn't watched it yet when they were telling us about it, but I was like, I think you'd maybe sent me the trailer, so it was on my thing I was getting ready to watch, and everybody there was like, oh man, you gotta watch this show, and it was like, oh yeah, it's amazing, and then they're like, but just there's some fan service, and I was like, I know, I was like, I'm used to that, I kind of look for that, but to the point where I don't have to scream for my children anymore, so I can just watch it and take it for what it is. But yeah, you sent me, I don't remember what prompted you. You just saw it. You sent me a translated trailer.
Yeah, that just came across my feeds at one point. It was a translated intro. Some dude had done a cover. His name is Will Stetson. He's on YouTube. He did a cover for the intro.
Yeah, he English rapped like the opening theme.
Yeah, so like match the I'm not into music like that, but like match the tempo and the rhythm and everything. He just matched it really well.
Yeah.
And I'm not the type to really listen to video game OSTs or anime OSTs outside of consuming that media.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be listening to music, it's going to be like classic rock or something like that.
Yeah.
Not that I dislike that music, it's just not my go-to. But this was the first time I'd ever heard an intro that was actually like translated. And I was like, I could see me actually listening to this song just as a song. It's a great song.
Well, that's what grabbed my attention on it, was when you sent me that. Of course, I watched that, and then I watched the one from the show that's in Japanese, and it was just like, it's one of those things that was just striking this nerve with me. It's like, I know this. And it's like, I don't know why, but it's like this animation style, this like style of rap and everything. It's like I've seen this.
It felt familiar.
Yeah, okay. And I got to went to finally look at the animation company that made Dandadan, or produced it, whatever, because I guess it's from a manga.
Right.
Those are related, but it's the company Science Saru, Saru. And then the first thing that popped up when I typed that was Devilman Crybaby, and I was like, that's what I'm trying to think of. It was that note in the back of my head that I could not identify, and as soon as I saw that, Devilman, I think there's a guy that gets possessed in Devilman that's like a track athlete and he runs just like Turbo Granny.
Okay.
So it was just, that image was something that was in the gray matter I couldn't dig out. And then the music, and they really do jump around the different animation styles in the intro to Dandadan, and several of those are used in Devilman Crybaby. And Devilman Crybaby probably should just be a topic for another show. It's one of those things I saw on Netflix, and back in the days when I was previewing things to see if it was something we could watch with our kids, and like a couple episodes into that, I was like, nope. No. Nope. It's like, I need to delete the existence from this so my kids don't see this. But I guess the way I would describe Devilman Crybaby is like a Requiem of a Dream kind of movie. Something that is just very intense, very well made, that you never want to see again. I mean, it's just super strong story that's just tragic and painful to get through. But stuff like that, I don't know if it's what that says about your personality, that you do hold on to things. I guess when you see so much media, see so many movies and shows over the years, that so many things are forgetful, and you get something that really just kicks you in the brain like that show did, that it really sticks with you. And you do watch shows for stimulation and things like that, and that thing really got at your emotions. It's almost like the first time I think I saw the movie Seven in the theater. I walked out of the theater angry, and I was thinking as I was walking, it's like, that's amazing. They pissed me off. It's like, I want to go see that again, because most movies 3 days later, I'm like, what was the guy in the movie that did the thing? And a week later, I'm like, I don't even remember what I watched. But that company is the same company that does Dandadan, and others. I've seen a couple other things they've already done. They did Japan Sinks, which is a much more low-key show, but still that same kind of thing where, like, not afraid to pull any punches on you and just emotionally hit you. If you've seen that, you know what I'm talking about. We won't get into that. I'm not going to spoil other shows. We're going to have to spoil Dandadan to talk about it. They did Lou Over the Wall, which I don't remember as much. I remember it was it's very musical. I think it was about like some kind of spirit or something that helps somebody become a better musician. And that may be way off. That's just kind of what I remember.
The Colors Within?
The Lou Over the Wall.
Oh, the Lou Over the Wall. Okay.
It's a musical show. I just don't remember. I don't remember a lot of details on that. I remember Japan Sinks. I really liked that. Devilman Crybaby I loved for just whatever sick reason. Shows like that stick with you. but that's it is the same company that did this, and at some point maybe I'm going to have to just get a Crunchyroll subscription or something to try to access some of the other material that's out there. They've done a lot of things. Like, you've got their catalog pulled up, and it's a ton of stuff. Yeah. And if they come anywhere close to this level of stuff on everything they do, then they would instantly be towards the top of my favorite companies. I don't even think of shows in terms of companies, production companies and stuff, but I love stuff with music in it. Again, this one is such a quirky, weird show, but also well written and well thought out, that it's one of those ones that's worth the hype, I think, for sure.
Let's touch back on Devilman Crybaby.
Yes.
Would you recommend it?
No.
Sighs.
No. I would recommend it for people that like things that you know are going to bother you. If that's a way to recommend it. If you don't like to get into things that get kind of rough on the emotions, then it's not. It's a very biblical story. It literally is about Satan, and there's too much to talk about on that front with that show, but how he manipulates people and what he does, and how he's always trying to pull the world towards evil is kind of what that show is about. And it's probably one that's actually worth some research and study on to even try to talk about it thoroughly. And I definitely need to watch it again. I haven't seen it since I watched it the first time, because it was produced on Netflix, and I don't know if it's accessible outside of Netflix or not. If that's the case, I don't have a way to rewatch it right now because I'm just not a Netflix guy. But they may be old enough that you can get to it on Crunchyroll or something. I'm not sure.
According to Google, it's Netflix and Netflix and Netflix.
Yeah.
We did look that up. That it is not censored on Netflix, which is good. Sometimes that's a concern. Yeah. I haven't seen it, but it's always been one of those, like, I've heard about it, I've been interested in it.
And it's not just violence graphic; it's sexually graphic. Like, there's a couple parts in there when some things were happening. I was like, was that just what I thought that was? And it was like, oh yeah, that's what that was.
You brought up Seven, and one of the things I like about anime is I feel anime can touch on subjects and show content that would just be, even in the fictional realm of movies, would be too much for just a standard film. Yeah.
I've thought about it when you talked about Demon City. Yeah. There's two of those, right?
Demon City, Wicked City.
Wicked City. Yeah. I think Wicked City is the one I've seen more recently. That would be an amazing remake if you could do it in that Michael Mann 80s style. Did you ever see the movie, is it Mindhunter?
Yes. The guy with
the original Hannibal Lecter movie?
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter. It's the first. It's actually.
I thought that was Red Dragon.
Red Dragon. Mindhunter is the original.
Oh no,
Red
I haven't
Dragon.
seen this. No, I've seen Scanners.
Red Dragon is a remake of Mindhunter.
Oh.
But it was made by Michael Mann. I'm pretty sure the same guy that did Miami Vice, and he has that whole '80s theme with the cool music and stuff through it. And God, is it Brian Cox that plays? He's the current McDonald's guy. He was the bad guy in the X-Men movie. He's the guy that plays Hannibal Lecter in that. But it's pretty much a shot for shot, or Red Dragon is a shot for shot kind of retelling of this.
Okay.
It's completely forgotten kind of movie. But what made me think of that is like Wicked City is in that same kind of 80s style, and it's like I'd love to see somebody come back and try to like make that movie, but I don't think you could. You'd have to really cut some content out because there's some things that happen in Wicked City that are just far too graphic. It might actually get you an NC-17 or I don't know. NC-17 and X, is that two different things at this point? Or
I think NC-17 is what X became.
Yeah. I think if they made Wicked City and live action on film, it would have to be. And there's just no way you could not. And even with just CGI stuff and all that, it would be too much. And Devilman Crybaby is the same way. It's a lot.
If I can imagine how much more they would have done if 7 was a anime.
I don't know that you'd even want to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I think I could totally see them doing like taking the exact story, but then just showing what he did to the people.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. No, it'd be even in the way that they show some things in anime where you don't see it all, but you get enough of it to know exactly what happened, would be on a level that would be 10 times probably what you saw in 7.
And that's one of the things that really draws me to anime is I think it allows creatives to explore themes and show themes that would be uncomfortable live action. Yeah. And not only uncomfortable for the viewer, but like uncomfortable for the actor and actress.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are things that you've seen in film, and I'm just like, how did the people performing pretending they're doing this? How do they even feel comfortable doing that? With animation,
Be
animate whatever you want.
Episode 1 of Dandadan.
Yes, it would be, and that goes. We'll talk about the fan service in Dandadan.
Yeah, we got kind of Dandadan broken into some categories. Fan service is the place to start because if you're going to consider watching this, I guess that's a place to start at on whether you watch it or not. It is adult, not grotesque and obscene, but very rude and I don't even know if offensive is the right word, but people would take offense to some of it, I'm sure. Yeah. But those who take offense and something being offensive, I think, are two different groups. But I guess hopping over the characters, there's Momo, which is the girl, the main girl lead. She believes in ghosts, and then she has a little kind of a nerdy boy that's at school with her. We end up calling Okarun. His name is Ken Takakura. Yeah. We never figure out exactly. It's kind of part of the show. She has some kind of affinity for Ken Takakura. I don't know if that's supposed to be a celebrity or in Japan.
That's what I got was that there was
maybe he's like an actor
or something,
news anchor or something.
And apparently there is a Ken Takakura actor and a singer.
Okay.
He's been in over 200 films.
So
he was kind of thought as the Japanese Clint Eastwood.
There you go.
There you go.
She wants her ideal guy would be Ken Takakura. And then she meets this kind of nerdy boy in school, finds out that his name is Ken Takakura, and she's like, nope, from here on I'll call you Okarun. So she just renames him.
Okay, so Ken Takakura died in 2014, apparently.
Okay. So he's more like a samurai Clint Eastwood
guy.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the author of Dandadan is just a fan.
Yeah.
It was like paying homage to probably one of his favorite actors.
Yeah. Okarun is into alien conspiracies, and I forget exactly how they interact in talking about that in the beginning of the show, but basically she thinks he's full of crap and vice versa.
She was getting embarrassed, and she sat down with him and kind of used him to hide.
That's right. And he was sitting there flipping through like one of his conspiracy alien books or something.
And she noticed it and flipped through it too, and he thought that meant she was interested.
So the whole show kind of kicks off with them challenging each other. That I'm going to send you to a haunted place. He's like, oh, fine, I'll send you to a place where there's aliens supposed to. People have sighted aliens there.
And she was like, I can't believe you believe in UFOs. That's it's not like They're not like they're yokai.
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, you believe in yokai? Come on."
But those are the main two, and you kind of get some other characters added in as you go. There's, sticking on the fan service thing while we're still on that topic, is her granny.
Yeah.
Which is Psycho, or Seiko.
Psycho.
Ayama?
Seiko.
Was it Ayama? I forget what her last name is.
Ayase.
That is supposedly her grandmother, who walks around and kind of like she just finished an OnlyFans show.
Well, sportswear. Yeah, sportswear.
She's healthy.
Yeah.
Is the way to say that, I guess.
I mean, she looks like she's 28.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if sometimes you get some backstory things in anime. Sometimes it'll never be addressed whether or not they'll cover how she's her granny. It's not been answered yet. But
she is like a medium, like a psychic.
Yes.
For like the local prefecture.
Yes.
So.
And she does a TV show. Mm-hmm. She's comes on some sort of show as a psychic. And then as you come to find out, she's also has a tie to a local god, and that's like a god that watches over her part of the city or her prefecture.
It's kind of where she gets her powers from.
Yeah, so that's her, and then you get a couple of characters that come in later. But with the fan service, you get that pretty straight away in the show. She goes to the place, like an
abandoned building,
abandoned warehouse or something, where people have seen aliens, and is
a UFO hotspot.
Immediately abducted, or not abducted, but restrained by aliens.
They take her to the ship, so yeah, abductor would be it.
And the aliens are, what did they call these guys? They were Serpo. They're from the planet Serpo, so they're Serpoians.
Okay.
And I think at some point you find out, or you just maybe even see it in the credits, that they are Serpoian A, B, and C.
That's what they're called. Like the name of that.
I don't know
alien.
What you even describe them as. They're like Japanese office business guys.
Oh, before they transform.
Yes.
Yeah, like the Weeble Wobbles.
Yeah, just these weird
Japanese
brown
businessman Weeble Wobbles.
Almost look a little bit like the pilot from Airplane, the inflatable pilot that pops up, but way creepier. And they immediately sort of restrain her, take her down to her underwear, and say they're there. They can't reproduce, so they're there to
impregnate her.
Use her to reproduce their people, and they get into metal probes and things. That's probably the most graphic part of the show. Yeah. I would guess.
They definitely start off in the first episode. They show you pretty much, from what I saw, this is the limit of the fan service.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where if you watch the first episode and you're fine with that,
if you can just get by that.
Yeah.
Even if you're not hey, I really like that.
Yeah. Well, she was Momo was in a compromised position, so it wasn't all fun and games.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, it could have gotten much darker, but it was plenty dark.
It wasn't nudity. She was down to her underwear, but it was explicit.
Yes.
That's how I would say it. And Dandadan in general is very much an anime. It's it does the anime tropes. Yes. So the exaggerated expressions, they're in here. The exaggerated animation is in here. The fan service is in here.
Yeah.
The high pitched wailing sometimes it's in here. So it's definitely if you watch anime and you think, well, what is a standard anime? This is a standard anime.
Yeah,
it really is.
I guess I think we said this before, the garden, or not the garden, but the elevator pitch description of this show would be that these two believe the two things about ghosts and aliens, challenge each other to go encounter the other. And then the boy Okarun encounters a ghost, gets his nuts taken by the ghost. Yeah. And the rest of the show is him trying to find his nuts again. Yeah. Basically.
Well, at first he got it all taken. He had all of it.
Yeah.
His banana.
And that's how they refer to it through the show. Yeah. I did watch it with subtitles to see if it translated any different, and it's the ghost that he encounters is another of the main characters is the Turbo Granny. And
which is an actual yokai in Japan.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of basically every monster, ghost, whatever that you encounter in this show is based off some kind of local lore. Some of it's Japanese. Some of it is back to West Virginia.
Yeah.
So somebody did some research on getting some background for all of these animals and different ghosts and creatures and stuff. But Turbo Granny steals his junk, and that becomes kind of the underlying reason for the rest of the series.
That's the inciting incident.
Yeah. his it's just so weird, to be able to say that they're out looking for his nuts, and everybody that encounters one, it makes something else happen in the story. It's so weird.
Now, Momo, when she's restrained and the aliens they transform into these like psychedelic gecko-looking things.
Yes.
And they're about to do their thing. Her psychic abilities awaken because she is Psycho's granddaughter.
Yes.
So, like, in the family, there's psychic abilities.
Yes.
And when her psychic abilities awaken, she, like, summons Okarun, who at that point was getting possessed by Turbo Granny.
And basically, possession in this seems to be like yokai. Yokai is just kind of a general term, Japanese term for ghosts or demons or apparitions or whatever.
A supernatural thing.
Yeah.
Being.
It seems like possession there, at least in this show, is that if something wants to possess you, it eats you. Because that's a couple of these different characters do that when they're trying to get.
Oh, like actually an hour.
Yeah, they're because Turbo Granny does that with him. She eats him.
Acrobatic Silky did that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And Momo's able to almost like restrain Turbo Granny within Okarun so he can get enough control of himself to help her. But then she ends up having to help him because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. But Turbo Granny is a powerful being too. Yeah. So once he's kind of contained in Okarun, then that becomes the thing in the next third or fourth episode where they battle for control of Turbo Granny and Okarun and stuff. But basically at the beginning there, she brings him there. He's possessed by Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny is kind of a foul-mouthed old lady that what is it? You get a little glimpse of it too. It's kind of one of these things where you kind of jump back to the sort of emotional thing that she's sort of like a ghost that's the vengeance of all these like girls that have been killed, abused, kind of abducted kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she's just
like in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, like their energies have coalesced and made Turbo Granny.
So she's sort of like this
vengeful
apparition
spirit.
of vengeance on behalf of all of these girls.
And she's in like a tunnel.
Yeah. And her thing is like, I guess the local thing is that you meet her and she challenges you to a race to get back out of the tunnel, and of course there's no way to beat her, so that she just flies past you. And then I
really like the visuals that they had when he was running and she was running after him. The way she like transforms and like rides the walls.
Yes.
And it's very, very cool.
And you were talking about, we'll get into some of the other monsters too. I think you read somewhere about the guy that created this and how he got to some of these characters.
Yeah, he was kind of the author was sort of kind of writer's block situation.
Yeah.
And he didn't really know what to do next, and he got some advice that told him, well, just start drawing and see what happens. And he was doing things like drawing Turbo Granny and taking local lore and local legend and drawing characters of that, and he drew like some UFO stuff, and he started getting these disparate parts and kind of coming up with a way that they can tie together.
It's kind of like we had some. I used to do a lot of writing when I was coming through school, and there were some assignments by teachers that were like, "Here's 5 items. Write a story that has all of these in them." Mm-hmm. And of course, some people would do like some little sentence like where they. There's a ball in a car. And my ball ran over by a car. Something stupid. And I'd try to write like a little horror story that had all of the things in it. It kind of sounds like maybe that's the process that he went through here. That he came up with all of this like really cool stuff that had no story, and then just started to piece it together and work it into a story. And
it works well. I really like how he incorporates I mean, I guess we can just jump around. How he incorporates the aliens with the ghosts.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a list of the monsters from the show, and some of them we have to kind of explain a little bit with the episodes. But the first one that you meet is the Turbo Granny. How would you describe her? I mean, she's just like typical, like
vengeful
weird
spirit.
Old lady, raggedy hair, creepy fingernails, all that kind of stuff. I guess the next one you encounter is when they get back. They get away from Granny. They go back to Sexy Grandma's house. Which is like a little temple. It's got like a gate and stuff on it. There.
And the Flatwoods monster shows up?
Yeah,
because
they get kind of trapped in. They get like walled inside the perimeter of it, right?
They got walled in because since Okaroon had Turbo Granny in him, he wasn't able to come onto their property.
And they had to take the barrier
They
down.
took the barrier down, which was just a little piece of paper that was on the entranceway. So they took the barrier down. And because of that,
you get all these like entities that don't like Sexy Grandma.
Yeah, they
were able to get in.
They started coming down on the house there, and it was I think it was the Flatwoods monster.
They immediately get into this fight with it's the Flatwood monster from West Virginia, which is like an alien sighting from West Virginia. I should have gone and got it. We've actually been to the museum in West Virginia, but they combined it with like this giant sumo for the show, which again has to be just him spitballing, sketching, coming up with stuff, because how he got to that, I don't know.
It has to be, because when I remember when in the episode where it was like, it's the Flatwoods monster, I was like, what? That looks nothing like...
If you take the image, if you've seen the show, or if you're going to watch the show, if you take the image of the head that's on the sumo, and just take it off the sumo and put it on like a little skinny, narrow body, often kind of depicted like you're wearing like a robe, that's the Flatwood monster, or the Flatwoods monster. But yeah, the hybrid of the sumo and the Flatwoods is crazy. But I guess on that episode they use Turbo Granny again to beat that monster, and then Turbo Granny kind of takes over Okaroon, right?
Yes.
And then Granny just comes in and like slaps him in the face with a bat.
Yeah.
and they have to get rid of, or they have to figure out a way to get control of Turbo Granny. So that's when I guess, is that the next thing? Am I skipping anything? They challenge her to the race.
I think that's the next thing.
And Turbo Granny takes that because she's like, y'all are stupid. There's no way you're going to beat me. But they kind of work around to where they sort of set a trap with the spell tags. So they're having a race. They get on a train, kind of fight back and forth with that, and they just run Granny through a barrier that
they traps
her, and then I kind of forget the middle piece there, how they get her to the little Lucky Cat. But they basically imprison her essence into the little Lucky Cat doll, so she becomes trapped in like the little cat you see in the restaurants, that has the little hand that bobs. Like a plush version of that. And
that comes to life, and that's where Turbo Granny is for the rest of the series.
But
she's in this little plush cat.
In that whole process, though, she has one of his nuts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just so funny. I'm 50. I can't say those words without laughing, so there you go.
His gold nut, which is gold for some reason.
One of his gold testicles. Yep. Kicks off that. You don't really see that till like about maybe 2 episodes later. But it kicks off and hits this other girl in the head, and she becomes the next kind of major character that's introduced into the show. And you want to go on into that part?
Yeah, that's
going to be Ira.
Ira, yep.
Ira is the pretty girl at the school.
Like the popular girl.
Popular girl. Everybody stops what they're doing, and she's nice and kind of eggs them along, waves at them.
And she just happens upon the golden testicle.
She's walking down like a path and sees the train go blowing by while the fight's going on with Granny. I guess basically as they're trapping her.
Well, it falls from the sky.
And it falls from the sky, comes down and hits her in the head. And I don't know what her line of thought was before that, but she's basically thinks that she's so pretty that she got this gift. That the heavens or God, they say the heavens, but she's basically saying that God chose her, gave her this golden nut to give her powers to fight demons.
Well, she doesn't know it's a testicle. She just knows it's a golden ball.
She just thinks it's like this charm
Yeah.
that fell from the sky, and it was sent to her specifically to give her the power to fight evil.
And in the story, her having this artifact, this golden testicle, kind of awakens powers within her.
Yeah, I think Granny, once she's in a cat, is kind of becoming like their little sidekick.
Yeah.
Kind of
Comic relief.
Kind of explaining things about the spirit world to them as they go. And she's like, oh, yeah, by the way, you might want to go find those nuts, because if anybody finds one, they're gonna unlock some kind of like psychic ability or connection to the spirit world. And
Never thought this before, but it's kind of Turbo Grain is kind of fulfilling a Yoda.
Yeah.
A Yoda role here.
I mean, how many animes have you seen that has that little character in Bleach? It's the little guy who goes into the bear.
Okay.
And they're like some kind of blue cat or something in Fairy Tail.
Yeah.
I think I haven't seen that one, but I know so many series that kind of is an anime trope where you get that little cute character.
I've only seen a few episodes of that, and it's just with her. It's like her pet.
Yeah, something to market to the kiddies, but I don't think again, this is probably not a show for the kiddies.
No. Well, I would say if you have a teen, an older teen, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, I would.
It's fine if they're into anime, like if they had watched like Bleach or Attack on Titan, anything like that.
It's not an entry level one,
no,
for sure. No. But if you're into anime and you like the mechanics of anime shows, this was one of the first ones I've watched in a while that had me just out loud laughing because it's so quirky and so many things happen and catch you off guard that you're like, wow, that's weird but hilarious. But anyway, Ira kind of comes into the story. She, after getting hit, I'm never
getting hit with the golden testicle.
I'm never gonna be able to say it without laughing. After getting hit with the golden nut, passes Momo in school and sees her psychic ability, Momo's psychic ability, when she uses it, are like these big blue
psychic
arms and hands that come out of her.
Have you ever seen Elfen Lied? I don't know how to pronounce it.
A long time ago, but I haven't seen it all the way. I've seen some episodes.
It's like that.
Okay.
I think it's a visual representation of her ability to manipulate things psychically.
But when Ira sees Momo's little hand
she
dragging
thinks
behind,
she
thinks they're wings.
Yeah.
So she thinks it's like these like demon wings that are behind her. So she's not only all of a sudden got this ability, thinks it was given to her because she's so cute and so perfect that she's going to be Heaven's warrior, sees Momo and thinks that here's my first demon, this is who I have to get.
I have to vanquish her.
But the flip side of possessing one of his nuts is that not only can you see psychic stuff, but everything in the psychic world can see you.
Yeah.
So,
which is interesting because that's kind of, again, when you, I don't know if that's a part of like Japanese superstition or if that's more of a Western superstition, but like that's one of the things as a Westerner I've always heard, like, you don't go knocking on those doors.
Yeah.
You don't play with the Ouija board because then they'll notice you, that kind of thing.
Yep. That's even Poltergeist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They see the little girl and they all get attracted to the light of the little girl.
Like, oh, she has something.
She has life force that we don't anymore. But so in this process of that, she starts to think that she's got to go fight Momo and exorcise the demon out of her. So she gets her friends to go get her like some kind of holy book. It's not the Bible. I don't know what the book is. They bring to her.
No idea.
And they find a crucifix, and all the girls can find is like a lighter that looks like a cross.
It is a lighter. They don't show that right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little lighter.
Yeah, it's like, I think that when the girls give it to her, she's like, "Why does it smell like gas?" And they're just like, "I don't know. It's a cross in it." And it's like, yeah, but that's because it's a lighter. But then you kind of get a little flashback of sort of the next little mini arc in the story. She sees this lady in the red dress out in the schoolyard, and that turns out to be the next monster that's introduced, which is the acrobatic Silky.
Yep.
And that's sort of a thing that's, I think, borrowed from some Irish folklore, some Norse stuff. It's sort of their version of again, probably just like a general yokai apparition, angry female spirit thing. And this one, she's portrayed as this really tall woman in a dress, which you'll find out in just a second where that's from, but is kind of based off of somebody who used to be a dancer.
Right.
And that gets you into the next part. She and her two friends, Ira and her two friends, jump Momo in a little building outside of school and try to start like exorcising the demons. So they're putting the cross lighter on her, and thinking that she's gonna like just have a demon fly over her, and she's just laying on the ground like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they're trying to perform an exorcism, and Momo slaps them around a bit.
Yeah, she's got the psychic arms, so she tosses them, and then Okarun just comes running in, and he's, I guess because he can see everything that's happening too, he's like, trying to warn them, get out of the way, and that's this massive, creepy, silky lady just comes in and grabs them, and that's kind of the end of, I think, maybe that episode, and then gets into the next one,
where we learn about the backstory.
I mean, you get a little bit more of, they fight, they basically are just trying to run around and get away from her, and again, she eats everybody, trying to possess them, but because they have the lighter, while they were running from her, she got her hair like sticks to everything in the building, so it's making like this web of her hair all through everything, and she ends up having it in her mouth with them. They set her hair on fire and make her throw back up Momo, Okarun, and Ira. But they, I guess because they have the sort of the supernatural psychic abilities, they live through that. It actually kills Ira. So they come back into still trying to figure out how to defeat her and the little cat, Turbo Granny, into the cat. I guess you just still call it Turbo Granny. Kind of comes on and is like, yeah, I got some bad news. I was like, this girl is dead. And then that gets you into, I think even the Silky and the cat are both kind of telling them this, like, she still has a little bit of life left in her. You can take mine from me, and use it to like restore her.
Yeah, yeah. That's what Turbo Granny told Momo and Okarun, that the acrobatic Silky can like infuse her life into Ira to bring her back.
Yeah. So, and the Silky even says, keeps saying something about Ira being her daughter.
Yeah. And
like she's getting kind of like emotional about that. She wants her to call her mommy.
Yeah, and in the beginning when the acrobatic Silky showed up, she kept telling Ira, hey, call me mom, call me mommy, call me mommy.
Yeah.
And when Ira like pushes back on that and says, no, you're not my mom.
That's when she just eats her.
That's when she's like, all right, fine.
But then, like, at this point, I think she hears the part that Ira's dead, and she's like, what have I done? She says, the cat's right, you just got to use your psychic abilities to do it. So she basically reaches a psychic arm into, like, the little flame inside of Ira, other arm into the flame that's inside of the Silky.
And jump starts.
Yeah, she says it's like jumper cables.
Yeah.
But when she does it, when she touches the Silky, she, I guess, can see all of Silky's memories and all this stuff. And it gets you into this episode where you go from all this absurd stuff that's happening, where they're chasing each other around and
we're seeing,
looking for nuts. And
we're seeing the way Acrobatic Silky's backstory is, we're seeing it through Momo's eyes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
and it shifts gears from this crazy absurd show into like this 10, it's not that long, no more than 10 or 15 minutes of what could just be a movie. It's like this emotionally just destroying your soul story that they tell about the lady that became this acrobatic Silky. And she's a girl that at some point was like a dancer,
single mother,
like a ballerina. Doesn't tell you what happens that gets her where she fails to pursue that life, becomes a prostitute, but has a daughter. And it's kind of like showing you mostly that I think they showed like her getting money off of a bedside table, coming back home, pretty just defeated, looking miserable, met at the door by her daughter, then just goes straight into mom mode, dancing and playing with my kid, wants to like give her stuff, trying to figure out a way to like give this little girl the best life that she can, even though she's living a pretty tragic one. And part of the whole thing is, she's a dancer. She's teaching her daughter about dancing and how to do some of her ballerina type things. Sees a dress that she wants to buy for her daughter, decides to do it, but has to take money out of her sex work money to go buy the dress. And that comes straight back into a scene where the pimp shows up and he's looking through the envelope and the money's gone, and he is just thrashing this lady. And I think after he hits her, and this part's pretty graphic. It's pretty tough to watch. She falls down on broken glass and gets cut in the stomach and the side. Gets back up and gets kicked in the face. I mean, he's trying to kill her. And then on top of that, he takes the lady's daughter. I'd say the daughter is no more than kindergarten age.
I'll say like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say like that. 5.
Yeah.
5 to 6. I would say either right before kindergarten or kindergarten age.
Yeah,
just
tiny.
Just takes the daughter and leaves. Say he's just abducting this child to do God knows what with. I'm sure traffic her into the same industry, which is not anything you want to think about. And then of course she chases him outside, just bleeding out into the street, sees him driving off with her daughter, and then she dies. She dies laying in the rain out in the road by herself, and
bleeding to death.
Yeah, and the way they juxtapose those two things with showing the little happy moments and stuff and just shifting back in is one of those things. Like I said, we both were saying about how it's just one of those things they can do in anime that sometimes you just can't do other ways, and they do it in such a short amount of time and it hits you so hard. It was the episode where I stopped at the end. I was like, I'm not watching any more of this tonight. I need to process this episode. But then they
I do want to say that
jump in.
One of the things that they could have done, and someone who wasn't as careful with the content and the story, is they could have inserted fan service into that part of the story.
Oh yeah.
I could have totally seen a different studio, a different writer. I could totally see there being a lot of fan service there, especially with her being a prostitute.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that here, and I think that shows that there's a care that they took for the story. And even like when they had the fan service in the beginning, it was done to kind of make light of the situation.
Yeah. And
in this part of the story, they didn't want to make light of it. They
Yeah.
knew that there was a weight that they wanted this part of the story to have.
Yeah.
And they treated it appropriately. And I think that was it was done well. It was done very well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's not too many. I won't go into my history that much, but I was a police officer for a long time. I've seen some awful things, and it takes a level of things in a film or a show to even kind of get my eyebrows raised. And this was one that was an eyebrow raiser. It was pretty intense. And then as you're seeing through this whole sort of flashback of memories, Ira, the cute girl, also lost her mom. And at some point,
she saw acrobatic Silky.
Yeah,
she was with her dad.
She's just with the dad, but she saw, before she came to Silky, she was just like this lost ghost, like this lost soul.
But when Ira first saw her, she was already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just, somehow or another, they haven't really
She was a
explained that
wandering
part.
soul.
How having experienced some tragedy, I think Ira, she sees her mom put into a casket and locked away into like a little tomb, because I don't think people in Japan aren't buried. They don't have places to bury them. They've kind of put them into, what's the right word for that? It's not like a mosque, but like mausoleum kind of thing. She sees that, but her dad is telling her that, your mom will be back sometime in the future. So she's got some trauma in her life where she lost her mom, doesn't really understand what happened. And
we're not told what happened.
Yeah.
It's not really important to the story. It's just
doesn't seem
the fact that her mom is gone is important.
But somehow or another, maybe that little bit of tragedy too gives her that window to see into that psychic realm a little bit, because she can see this lost soul of the acrobatic Silky wandering around, just kind of lost. It's like a spirit that it can't move on, can't go to heaven, it can't go to hell. It's stuck in limbo. And
with the way she died, I don't blame her.
Yeah. And the little girl thinks she sees her mom for a second and says something to her, and Silky lady. I don't know if she had a name beyond that, but the lady that becomes the Silky can't remember because she's kind of stuck in this like limbo. She can't remember. She knows that she had a daughter. She doesn't remember what her name was or who she was. She thinks that Ira is actually her daughter for a minute.
Right.
And the dad comes and gathers her up. I think they talk for just a second, but then the dad gathers up, doesn't have any idea that she's talking to a ghost and carries her away. And I think at that point, the Silky becomes angry and I think remembers that she had a daughter and that somebody took her daughter and sees somebody taking this girl again away. That anger like manifests and then she becomes this,
transforms into
this thing,
the larger creature, the yokai looking creature.
Yeah.
No, apparently she doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
The character doesn't have a name beyond Acrobatic Silky.
Yeah. So you see all that happen in just minutes, which again is just somebody taking just an emotional chunk of wood and slapping you in the face with it. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Now, Ira noticing the Acrobatic Silky when she was still more in a more human-like form as a spirit, and then the Acrobatic Silky noticing Ira, thinking that's her daughter. Ira kind of loses the ability to see her until she gets the golden testicle.
Yeah.
But is the Acrobatic Silky, has she just been hanging around? Like, why is she at the school? Is that ever explained?
I think it's because she could never find Ira again until she got the nut.
So kind of a
so as soon as she got that,
coincidence.
She was visible to spirits again, and the spirit of her that I guess has been wandering around Japan trying to find her daughter, all of a sudden thinks she's located her daughter again, which again it's not. It's Ira, but it's just the last memory that she had of an encounter with a child was seeing Ira as a child. So she's like, "This is my daughter," and that's why she comes after her, just to come back to get her. And then, as Momo is transferring that life force from the Silky into Ira,
she sees all this.
She sees it too. She's also, life is returned to her. She's hearing what's happening. The Silky starts to just disintegrate because it's dying.
Life force is gone.
And the cat is telling us that she's just going to disappear into oblivion.
The cat really is just like the narrator.
Yeah, she's just telling you the awful truth that no opinion one way or the other. It's like, yeah, she's going to disappear forever and be forgotten. She's
not moving on.
She can't move on to the afterlife. Ira, who was just dead, hears this and just complete lesson on grace, comes over and gives her a hug and calls her mom.
Yeah.
And tells her that she loves her, and it releases her soul and lets her pass on.
Kind of gives her some closure.
And then the sermon on grace ends.
Yeah. Now, there are some people who think that who took the story as being that Ira was the little girl that was taken in the flashback.
Yeah, I think that was just not paying close enough attention to the story. I think the little girl in the flashback, if she's alive, you don't want to ever see where that story went. I would guess that she's not alive, but the similar characteristics of that girl and Ira, so you can see how the mom would have felt that, and it's clever writing to make them similar enough to where you don't have to explain why she would have mistaken it. It's just, again, we're not talking like 8 episodes doing this. This was like 8 minutes. And they convey all this in 8 minutes.
I think you took longer talking about it than actually.
Yeah, it's so much to think about and process, and when the show hits you with it again, you're just kind of sitting there like,
whoa,
wow, now what do I do? It's like, I don't want to risk watching another episode.
So now we have Ira, mom's dead. We have the Acrobatic Silky's daughter, who mom is dead, and we also have Momo, who lives with her grandmother. We don't have any information about that, about why she lives with her grandmother.
Yeah.
See, I felt that there was an implication, but it didn't seem to pay off any. Like, they didn't touch the background of Acrobatic Silky or who the little girl was or anything like that. But at the time, I felt they were implying that perhaps Acrobatic Silky was Momo's mother.
Yeah.
Because of the way they showed Momo reacting to the situation, I felt like it seemed like she was seeing something familiar.
Yeah.
But it was never mentioned or anything like that. So, I mean,
I think it'd be interesting if that came back around to be related. I don't doesn't seem like it would be if they haven't kind of worked that back in.
Right. Like at the episode point, I was like, okay, well, that seems like that little girl could have been Momo, and that was her mom, and
yeah.
But Momo doesn't say anything about it. It's never touched. It's never spoken about again. So I don't think that's actually where they're going.
I think it was just Momo. I'm going to be the jumper cables to do this thing, and then
she was just
like, holy crap, what did I just
emotional from what she was seeing, kind of like kind of like the viewer.
Yeah. So we end that episode, and in doing that, transfers the aura of that Silky into Ira.
Yeah. And so Ira becomes sort of like Okarun.
She kind of becomes a hybrid, like Okarun with the Turbo Granny. She's has the traits of the Silky and can fight.
Now so Okarun has the powers of Turbo Granny because they pulled Turbo Granny out of him.
Yes. But
her powers remained. Ira has the powers of Acrobatic Silky because Acrobatic Silky is dead.
Yes.
So it's kind of they have a similar situation, but it's like they arrived there differently.
And that's a thing that's kind of in the background of the story, is that the Turbo Granny that's trapped in the little cat doll knows that she could get her powers back from Okarun, but I guess the agreement and the way that they got her in there have it to where he would have to give them to her.
Right.
So I don't think that she has a way to take them back at this point. So.
And I've told you before that I do question, like, narratively, the purpose of Ira getting powers that are so similar to Okarun. And Okarun there was a couple of episodes that they spent with him kind of coming to terms with his powers and learning about his powers.
Yeah.
Ira had none of that. Just as soon as she was like half yokai, she was really powerful, more powerful than Okarun. So they didn't really address this much at all. Like, they didn't really go much into like a Okarun versus Ira. Like, there was no conflict between them. They worked together really well, almost like two halves of a whole. But yeah, I kind of felt like Okarun was put on the back burner when Ira got her powers in the next couple of episodes.
Oh, Okarun too is just a little dude that was like to read about aliens, and
true, he's a lot more shy.
Ira is a girl that thinks she's so special that when a gold ball hit her on the head that she was chosen by
true. So there's confidence in Ira that Okarun doesn't have.
She's a little bit more willing to accept some power because she wanted it anyway. She thought she already had it. She didn't. Now she got it. So. And that gets us into the mushroom trip. That's what I like to call it. When they get into...
They go into the void space.
Yeah. And
so that's kind of another anime trope. We saw it before with the Flatwoods Monster. And one anime I've seen before that kind of has that is called X. And it's just there's this like cube that creates a space that is apart from reality, to where anything that gets destroyed while the battle's going on gets like repaired.
Huh.
It separates that part of reality from the rest of the world just for a bit, and then once the barrier goes away, it goes back to normal.
Yeah.
That kind of is what it reminded me here of. Now it was the aliens that brought this void space, right?
Yes, because they do a little bit in 8, I think. They did it in 4, and they kind of do it in 8, where you get back to that little high school awkward drama with Okarun, pretty much showing what it was like for me to be a teenager, where you're never on the same page with a girl at the same time, and are so awkward and immature that you just can't ever get that right. Mm-hmm. But I think that's part of 8, and then they get into... I forget how they even got to this thing where they're back with the aliens, and...
Well, they were learning about the fighting shrimp.
Yes.
And then the aliens showed up.
They just showed up. Then they brought the Dover Demon, which gets to be kind of a chupacabra / fighting shrimp. Sort of.
Yeah. That was another one of those, like, I hear the name and I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with the name, and they show what their depiction of it is. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I looked up Dover Demon. Again, hopefully sometime we can get to where we can pull up some pictures where we can share with y'all. He basically kind of looks like Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Just like a little weird thing that hangs around swamps, but he's an alien, I think. People think that it's an alien.
I've seen this image before.
Yeah.
This one here.
But the image that you get here has like a big shell, like a crustacean shell with like little shrimp eyes sticking up, and he's got boxing gloves, and he's got like tight pants on. And he likes
he's a boxer.
He's a boxer. So they get into this fight with him, and aliens are trying to, I guess, abduct them again.
Yeah, they want Okaru's banana.
And I think at this point he even becomes like naked Turbo Granny or something.
Yeah, they strip him completely.
Yeah.
He's naked for like 2 episodes.
And it's just this random fight going on. They're underwater.
Underwater, like the whole everything, the whole school fills with water.
And at some point there, I'm not sure I ever followed why
Nessie shows up.
Nessie shows up, which is Loch Ness Monster shows up and starts shooting lasers that just cut entirely through the building. And
the Dover Demon turns out to be an alien bounty hunter that they've hired, that the aliens have hired to help them.
That's right.
Okay. Nessie is a cryptid. I kind of got the same idea where they brought Nessie. I don't know why.
It's a pet.
Yeah. I don't know if the implication is that this void space contains Nessie, maybe. But yeah, I don't remember anyway the explanation of why Nessie is there.
This is again why, if you're into anime, you should love this thing, because again, an episode earlier we're talking about this tragic story about a mom who had her daughter taken and was murdered by the mob. Yeah. And then we're into these aliens that look like office dudes, like businessmen from Japan, bring the Loch Ness Monster and a fighting shrimp to try to just come back again and get his banana. Yeah. And I guess to get Momo again to try to breed with her. And
yeah, they're interested because of their breeding situation. That's kind of like the whole motivation for these alien creatures is they can't procreate and they need human organs in order to procreate.
We're assuming that probably again before the series is over that aliens are going to show up and try to mate with her again.
Probably. I'm sure.
And where in here, I don't know if I've got it noted, you get the introduction of kind of the last character. You get Gigi. Is it after that?
Goodness, when does Gigi come in? I felt like it was earlier.
It's either right before that or it's right after this fight.
No, it's episode 11.
Okay, it's after that.
So it's 2 episodes after this.
They have this crazy fight that's just... what I wrote in my notes after I watched this is I feel like somebody slipped me something. It was so weird with the shrimp character and the monsters fighting, and then all of the monsters kind of combine.
Yeah, the Dover Demon and Nessie, because Nessie is almost power-wise like Godzilla. Yeah, kind of, because there's this laser beam that shoots out of Nessie's mouth. Yeah, and once the shrimp and Nessie merge together, Nessie gets the toughness of the shrimp. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then Okarun can't go underwater to fight it because he can't swim.
He can't run. He can't run underwater. He can't swim. He can't run underwater.
And then Momo just basically uses her psychic powers to launch him at that, and I guess the Silky kind of comes in and they do a big combining blow on the monster, and I don't know if they kill it or
they do this thing where I think Silky uses the hair, and he runs along the hair. Yeah, yeah. But because that was the whole thing, you couldn't get traction. Yeah,
and they end up defeating this combo Godzilla Loch Ness Monster shrimp. Yeah.
and then the void collapses. Oh, and to be more aquadynamic, I guess. The 2 girls strip down to their underwear at some point. Yeah, I mean that's the justification for it, right?
And is it that whole fight when it's over? They're back in the school.
Yeah, yeah. The void space collapses and the school's fine, but their clothes are gone.
Yeah, the 2 girls are in their underwear and Okarun's just butt ass naked, and then everybody sees them and they all go running up the hall.
Can you imagine how horrible that would be as anybody, but as a teen? Oh my goodness.
I kind of wonder, it'd been interesting to see that scene from the perspective of the students. It's were there just the 3 of them getting naked in the corner and yelling and karate chopping at stuff or something, and everybody's watching them what on earth is happening? But we didn't get to see that. We just saw a transition back to that. They all go running out, and then you get like this another little side spin into weirdness where they capture the shrimp, the Dover demon, and take it back to Granny's.
Yeah, because the Dover demon is
a bounty.
an alien and not a yokai, when the void space collapses, the Dover demon stays.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah. And you find he's wounded.
He's bleeding white.
Yeah. And they find out that that's just milk.
That's just milk. It's literally milk.
And that all
his people.
Yeah, all of his people they survive off of milk, and that's why they have duck cows.
And the reason the reason he's doing what he's doing is to make money, so that he can get like blood transfusions for his kid.
Yeah, which just means like a carton of milk.
Yeah, which is a carton of milk. And I really I think the way they use the cow and the way this silly little story really encapsulates one of the things I like most about this series is the way they find to associate these different parts of lore.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that aliens abduct cows, that's
been there forever.
Yeah, that's something that has been in American folklore since the 50s. And in the opening, it shows one of the alien ships with a cow being like taken up.
Yeah.
And that turns out that is the ship of the Dover Demon. And they give him a cow, and he takes that cow back to his home so he can give the milk to his son, so his son can have blood. And I'm just like, it's a stupid explanation, but it's creative.
Yes.
I appreciate what they've done there.
Yeah, it's another thing that just listening to us talk about this, you're probably starting to wonder if you've been slipped something or if we've been slipped something. Right? But we're just telling you what happens in the show, and it's so quirky and all over the place, and it's just. I think we've talked about that before about how some shows kind of you're going to get to a big fight or a big moment in a show, and they just drag getting there. There is like no downtime in this show at all.
No.
It's like, here's a crazy fight, and it's just, and so much of it is funny too. I know when you got into the second half of the season where most of my just laugh out loud moments where I was just like, wow, these people are crazy, but in a good way, like really thought out kind of humor. And then from there you get into like the introduction of the last character, Gigi,
which I'm actually looking back at it. I'm actually surprised because Gigi seems to be a little more prominent in my mind as a character.
Yeah, it's really not till then. I was thinking maybe
episodes.
It was before.
Yeah, and that's when we were talking about it, that's what I was thinking. I was like, well,
it kind of ties back into the whole teen angst thing with Okarun not knowing how to really handle a girl that he likes. Because Momo is the first friend that he's ever had. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, he starts to discover that she's cute and that he'd like for her to be more than a friend. And then you have Ira that comes in and is kind of pursuing him a little bit too.
Yeah, she's pursuing Okarun.
So you've got all that going on.
Why is she pursuing? Because she had his testicle. It like drew her to him, right?
I guess so. I'm not sure I ever figured that out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got, was that it was because she had the testicle that there was like a psychic connection there.
My instinct would say that because she already has a little bit of a rivalry with Momo, and she knows that Momo and her are friends, that she's just being the teenage girl.
That could be it. That could totally be it.
Going after the guy that she knows another girl likes because she just wants to show that she can get that guy. She
did say when she was during her introduction, she did say something about being able to, like, every guy wants me. You know?
Yeah. So the one guy
that could totally be it. It could just be an ego thing.
But Gigi is Momo's childhood friend, yep. And he's like kind of a more goofy, popular guy, sporty guy,
taller,
better looking than Okarun, at least that he thinks. So Okarun is immediately freaked out by the fact this guy showed back up, and he's going to stay at the home with Momo and Granny. Because
his parents, what happened to his parents?
I don't remember.
What happened to his parents? I don't remember either.
But whatever the reason.
One of them's sick, right?
It might be. It might be that it was just temporary.
Yeah.
So he comes there, and that starts this whole dynamic of them, but it kind of turns out pretty quickly that they...
Yeah, they're hospitalized with a sickness. That's all we got.
Yeah. You think it's going to be like, this is going to be a bad guy, and it's going to be Okarun's problem he has to deal with, but it really doesn't turn out that way. he's a goofball, but they kind of become friends and kind of become rivals a little bit. They're both kind of joking about liking Momo, and
I've gotten I get the impression from Gigi that it's more of a game for him.
Yeah.
Like Okarun is interested in Momo as like a girlfriend. To Gigi, it kind of seems like a joke.
Yes.
Kind of.
And I don't remember if he comes in right after it or if it's in the middle of it. That's when you get to this whole other just out of left field story about the anatomy mannequins.
Is that the episode 11?
I think it's in 10 and 11 maybe.
10,
so it's kind of happening at the same time.
Okay.
And again, in this whole world of just, we're going to throw something at you and you just got to process it. Okarun, I think you'd already met Gigi because Okarun's kind of freaked out, and they're having a scene where he's kind of freaked out about what he's supposed to do about Gigi suddenly showing up. And like in the middle of that scene, all of a sudden, like one of these biology anatomy mannequins just comes running past him.
It's all messed up in our head, man.
Is it?
It said episode 3.
No, he wasn't there then. But
you keep talking.
But at any rate, when I say anatomy mannequin, if you can imagine the little plastic thing that you'd have in a biology classroom that has the little plastic organs you can take out, like half of the face exposed, you can see like what an eye looks like and all that. One of those things just comes running past Okarun, just power running, just like, ah, and you're just like, what on earth?
Taro, the anatomy model, episode 11 and 12. I don't know what that other thing was saying.
Yeah, 11
and 12.
But as this thing runs over it, I think it's running at one of the other characters and hurdles them because it's just like
jumps over them.
It's beelining towards something and you don't know what.
Right.
It's running up on rooftops and over everything. It hurdles one of them and they look up and they see this flash and they think they see the other
glint from the sun.
Yeah, but they think it's like it's the other nut.
Right.
so they start chasing this enemy mannequin because they think they found his other ball, and it turns into this pursuit across the city. Finally gets to a landfill, and you get to, I think the male anatomy mannequin is named Taro. Mm-hmm. And you get to meet Hana, which is the female anatomy mannequin that had been discarded by the school. That was Taro's love interest.
It was like the previous model.
Yeah, but apparently they would come alive at nighttime, and they were in love. And I have no idea if this is based off of some kind of
local legend or
local folklore or just some kind of thing that you've come up with when you're a student at school in Japan or something, or where that story came from. I'm
thinking it might be there was a movie in the 80s called Mannequin, where the mannequin would come alive at night.
It could be a wives' tale. It could be a thing a teacher told a student at some point.
I think it was that sort of thing where it's just like a superstition of the culture. That's my assumption.
Anyway. So you get into this little side story of them. They rescue the Hannah model and take it back to Granny's house, and Taro has to basically every night has to just power sprint from the school to come there and see her before the sun comes up and then go back. And that's
to start his shift. Doesn't want to be late for his shift.
Yeah. So now, then you get that whole arc kind of thrown in on top of that,
and aside from them now being the stewards of Hannah, and they have her on their property, and Taro's supposedly coming every night. At least for the first couple of nights, Momo's staying up with her, waiting for Taro.
Yeah.
We don't know really long term what that's going to mean.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, when we thought that he had Okarun's second testicle, that was a good explanation for what happened. Okay, well the testicle got lodged in this anatomy mannequin.
Somebody found it.
And it brought him to life, like Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah.
But he didn't have the testicle, so we have no explanation for this man. Like, has this mannequin been doing this for years? I don't know.
Trying to think of, how this works into the story, and it may just be comic relief. It may go somewhere. It's one of the ones that had me rolling because the way that he's just power running and screaming, it's hilarious. It's good stuff.
And when he's running, one of the things they do to try to, they have to try to catch up to him because they think he has the testicle is Momo grabs onto him with like her psychic hands. And that's kind of how they, one, slow him down, but also keep up with him.
Yeah, they're just skiing behind this dude.
Pretty much, along rooftops and stuff.
Yeah. So you get that, you kind of get that developing relationship between Okarun and Gigi. They go to Gigi's house, which is out by like a temple or something. Kind of.
It's like it's outside of the city.
It's outside of like Granny's reach because her powers are kind of tied to something right there around where she lives. But why did they go there? I forget.
He finds out that they're into like supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
And Momo agrees to go with him to investigate.
Yeah.
The supernatural entities that he thinks is in his house.
And you're starting to see like.
And Okarun's like, "Well, you're going by yourselves?"
Yeah.
He's like, "No, I'll come with you."
Yeah. And then you start to see around like the village or whatever, right around where he is, these weird. There's people there, but they almost look like sort of Village of the Damned. You know, just
Resident Evil 4 guys.
Yeah, they're just kind of standing there. You don't know if they're
possessed or
they're possessed or if they're ghosts, and nobody sees them unless you can see them.
Do we see any villagers aside from them?
I don't think
it seems pretty dead.
It seems like it's everybody. Yeah. Like either everybody's gone and these are like spirits, or everybody's possessed.
Yeah.
I don't know which. They go back. Okarun and Gigi are kind of playing soccer, hanging out at the house. Momo is going to go. There's a hot spring thereby. She's going to go do that. And this isn't the last episode. She goes to the hot spring. When she gets in it, these weird townspeople, whatever they are, 3 or 4 of these guys, like older men, show up and get into the pool and start attacking her. And at the same time, they notice back at their house, Okarun and Gigi
and Okarun, yeah.
That all of a sudden there's this room that's attached to the house that wasn't there before. It just like
on the side of it. They're outside, kind of bonding.
Yeah,
and that's actually one of my favorite scenes, but of the series is just a little bit of they have a soccer ball and they're kicking it around and they're doing like one-upmanship and talking about Momo, and it shows you that while they are rivals, they're friendly rivals.
Yeah.
And it really solidifies Gigi's character.
Yeah, you can kind of see that Gigi is just mostly just messing with him because he likes him.
Yeah, and he's not going to be like a foil.
Yeah, he's not going to be that guy.
Right, exactly. He's not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
And they see that there's like the house actually gets extended. There's just huge square room.
I think they come inside and there's like no way to get into it. There's just a wall, so they start digging through this like wall.
They just bust through the wall,
break through it. And I said it before, like I don't know if that's the right name for it. The thing that they hung up to keep spirits out of Granny's place, I called it like a spell tag.
Spirit tag or something, yeah.
Like a little thing you could write like either a symbol or a prayer on or something to ward off bad spirits. They get into this so they can see through like this hole they've made in the wall, and the entire inside of the room is thousands of them. It's just
papered.
Just thick as it can be.
The wall, the floor, ceiling, everywhere.
So they're looking in there, and then you come back to Momo. She's there with all these creepy dudes that start assaulting her.
Holding her under the water.
Grab her by the neck and put her underwater, and end of season 1.
end of season 1. That's definitely one of the pretty much my only criticism of it is that it ends not even on a cliffhanger. It ends in the middle of action.
It's not a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is where we're gonna stop here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't probably one of those things where before, if you had a 12 episode anime season, you would stop at maybe at a cleaner spot and have to wait a year before you got 12 more episodes. Season 2 is coming right behind this. So
June, right?
My guess is that they had it pretty close to ready or already ready, and they just
July.
They just kind of made we have this many episodes, let's cut it here, and
which is, I mean, there are animes with 24 episodes, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for me to have anime. I'm assuming that's more of like a Crunchyroll or Netflix.
I wonder, because I keep hearing the season 2 was going to be on Netflix. I watched season 1 on Hulu, so I'm going to be ticked off if Netflix has exclusive rights to it because I'm going to have to find some way to watch it. But hopefully it'll be released on maybe multiple. Hopefully it's not exclusive on Netflix.
Right.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's the season. Like I said, this is not an entry level at all. It's if you've been into, I always say an entry level show is something like Demon Slayer, where it's easy to get into, has lots of characters that you can kind of attach yourself to. There's multiple ones in Demon Slayer, where you can be like, I like this guy, identify with this person, whatever. And then sort of follow a, not always predictable, but kind of predictable storyline as it goes. This is, I don't even know how to even sum this up. It's, if you watch this, try to struggle too, telling you what happened. It's because this is how it moves all over the place, but that's why I love stuff like this. It's what always makes me think back to is one of my favorite animes. I've watched it 1 and 2 at least twice all the way through. Parts of it a third time is Durara and Durara 2, where you have all these little mini sub-stories that are going on. They're all kind of related. They all do always tie back in together. There's never like any, we wrote this little story for no reason and made filler out of it. And it's kind of quirky. I mean, it's like little color gangs, and there's a waiter that has like powers to throw, vending machines at people, and there's a big like black Russian sushi chef that's like the guy that knows everything that's going on in the city, and that's probably the closest thing I can relate to this show, where you have this cool mix of music, of pretty intense themes, followed by goofy themes, and all these like weird storylines that I feel like, at least in Dandadan, is gonna. It feels to me like they're all there for a reason, and they're all going to come back.
Well, they do go into the explanation toward the end that the way the yokai and the aliens are related in this story is the aliens want to come to Earth.
Yeah, that's right.
For like our resources, our people, and stuff like that. They want to subjugate Earth essentially.
Yeah. But
the yokai are keeping them at bay, and that's like the big connection there, is that the aliens can't invade Earth properly because of the yokai, which I mean kind of makes sense when you look at how the aliens and Okaroon, when he's with Turbo Granny, how they react, and the way he's able to fight against them.
Kind of brings me back to them looking into the whole at all of these spell tag things, spirit tags, whatever they are. It's like there are thousands of them there, and it's like, are they all there to like contain something, or did somebody take them all away? That maybe they were containing things in other places, and somebody hoarded them and put them all here where you couldn't find them again. Is that room full of those tags keeping that person that was in the room, or is that person in the room making the tags for a purpose? Yeah,
no idea.
It could be Could be related to with, are the aliens doing that, or are they doing it because of the aliens? From a cliffhanger standpoint, I do like that part, because that gives you something to think about. Just leaving Momo underwater getting choked out was kind of like, okay. I would have liked to have some resolution on that, but we'll get it. It just has to be a month or two. So, but I would recommend this to anybody that has watched any kind of anime more than one series and likes the general themes, enjoys a funny, doesn't mind the content, I guess.
A good precursor question would be, hey, do you like anime? If they say yes, have you seen Dandadan?
Yeah.
It's not, hey, do you like anime? No. Well, there's this one you should try.
Yeah, start out with this one.
No. Definitely not. Yeah, because there's definitely some reinforcing of the stereotypes and the tropes that people criticize anime for.
Yeah.
You'll definitely see it here.
Yeah.
But as someone who likes anime, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know where to rank it on anything yet, because I haven't seen enough of it.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most interesting things I've watched in the last year. I'll say that.
Absolutely, I'm glad we watched it, despite it being new. Generally, if there's mainstream anime, something that like a lot of people are talking about, I might watch some clips or whatever. But I'm not enticed to actually watch it.
I started watching more popular things because I'm at shows all the time and see so many people
Kind of got to keep up on the...
That are either cosplaying
keep
stuff,
up on the culture,
or some people that want to talk about things while they're at our booth and things like that. So I'm up to date on Demon Slayer. I'm up on My Hero, finished Titan. So some of the big ones and stuff I've done, I have not seen everything, and there's no way that I probably have enough time to ever go back and catch them all.
But that's why people are watching it at 2 times speed.
I know I don't have the brain power to do that.
No.
So.
No, I'm sure there's a lot of people who just read synopsis and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that is our main course.
That's we're going to get to our wontons and garlic sauce. All right.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those wontons.
They are awesome. It's all about the sauce.
It is the sauce. It is the sauce. It really is.
I could just sit there, I think, and give me a straw. I could just drink the sauce.
And it never goes to waste. My usual, if I want to have like Asian food for dinner, what I usually do is I go and get that from that one place, and then I go somewhere else to get black pepper chicken. Have you ever had black pepper chicken?
Yeah.
Okay. The China Light doesn't do black pepper chicken.
Gotcha.
And I love it. I haven't really found a place that makes great black pepper chicken. So what I'll usually do is go to try to find a new place I haven't been yet to see if they have it.
No, I could see with the spice on the chicken and that sauce, that would be awesome.
They pair quite well.
And we make sticky rice ourselves here with we've got the little pressure pot and all that stuff that we do. If you do that on really good rice, it doesn't get a lot better than that.
There you go.
That's good stuff. The wontons are good too. They were big.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not your normal wonton, and they're stuffed really full.
I think wontons are like fortune cookie size. Yeah. Those things were like 2 dumplings combined into one.
And speaking of, we're going into our dessert section.
Yes.
And after that, we'll have our fortune cookies. This is our fortune cookies, and this will let us know what our topic for the next show is going to be.
Yes.
And
so this is the looking forward portion, kind of what we see coming up.
Yeah.
What we're excited about.
Yeah.
Whatever. My stuff is probably a little bit thinner on that because I just I don't follow enough things to see the releases of everything coming out. The main thing I have my sights on right now is the wrap up of I said it before that I watched Demon Slayer. They are going to finish Demon Slayer in a trilogy in the theaters. It's going to be the Infinity Castle arc. And I have not seen, unless that's happened in the last couple of days, I still have not seen a release date, but it's supposed to happen, I think, before too long. I don't know if it'll be before the summer or if the first one will come this summer. But Demon Slayer as a series is obviously kind of mainstream, but the animation style and the artwork on that is really on a level that I can't think of something else I can put on the same level. When they get into where they have the water style and the lightning style sword arts and stuff that they do, the way they animate that with the colors and everything, it's literally one of those things you could just watch. You could put some of that on loop and just watch it and not even know what's going on. It would still be just fascinating to watch.
Do you know if any of it is like CG that they've used during the process? Maybe like
it would have
they have CG, then they draw over it or something like that.
It would have to be, because if not, it would be. And there's a lot of time between these seasons too. If they were animating all of that by hand, that's insane. Because it's possible that they do. I can't imagine they don't do a little bit of CG just to augment it, if nothing else. But
well, it looks like there is a release date for the first film of September 12th, 2025.
Wow, I thought it was going to be much sooner than that.
I guess not.
I'll be looking forward to that one for a while.
For a while.
I saw trailers and stuff at the end of last year. I assumed with the trailers that it was gonna be spring at the latest. But so I'll tuck that away into the looking forward file for much later. But that's pretty much all I've got on my looking forward. Hasn't been that long since I kind of caught up on the series, so I'm ready for the next piece, but I may have to go back and rewatch some by the time September gets here.
to refresh your memory on what actually is happening.
It's actually a pretty easy series to follow.
Okay.
It's really kind of branched out where you got an arc with this character, an arc with this character, and that, and then this last one kind of started to bring them back together, and now it's going to all kind of converge on the Infinity Castle, and it should be fun. But hopefully it won't be 3 years of my life waiting for that to happen. But like Attack on Titan.
Now, is Attack on Titan done?
It's done. That's the longest finish of a series I think I've ever seen.
Drug it out?
Just the first... I don't remember how they numbered everything. The first 2 seasons, I know, weren't super far apart, but getting to that final season took forever. And I know the guy that was the creator went and worked on some other projects and then came back to it. It was worth it. It was good, but man, I really had to go back. I went back almost a full season to try to get back in and just remember everything that was going on in that one.
Well, anymore, I think you're just thankful that you get a conclusion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times. One of my favorite manhwa, was Priest, and that didn't finish. The guy was doing other things. I'm not sure why he didn't continue, but it just kind of left the story open.
Yeah, I think my version of that is still, I mentioned it very early on, was the Symbiotic Titan from Gindi, the guy that did Samurai Jack and all those other kind of Cartoon Network stuff. That series was amazing, and Cartoon Network killed it because it didn't have toy potential. It was literally a series about robots that joined together to form a giant robot and fight monsters, and had the military fighting them and tanks, and then like another like secret sort of clandestine group that fought them. You could have made toys on top of toys for that series.
If only some other series in the past had tried that, where you have the characters with the robots that form together a larger robot. Never seen that before. It's a unique idea.
It's a novel idea. Voltron.
Power Ranger. All right. The couple of things that I'm looking forward to. Mickey 17 is the first one I want to talk about.
I've seen the trailer.
With Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
Robert Pattinson's one of those actors where I was wrong about. I think like a lot of guys, didn't care much for Twilight. He was kind of a meme,
It's not a dude's dude when you come out of the Twilight.
Yeah. And you kind of make fun of him with the sparkly vampires and stuff like that. And I'm sure he got it a lot.
Being sad.
But everything I've seen him in, he's done. He's a fantastic actor. He really is.
I think the progression that I went was Good Time. It's like a little kind of like enclosed like little crime story where he's, I think, running, maybe he robbed something or his brother robbed. I don't remember that storyline. I just remember that movie because I was like, wow, this is the same guy from Twilight.
Yeah.
He's impressive. And then High Life, which was just weird, but it was watchable. It was like that space thing that he was in. One of those kind of weird independent movies, but was worth watching because his acting job in it was actually really good. And I think the only reason I even sought those movies out was because I knew that he'd been cast to play Batman. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I was like, why on earth did they pick this dude? And then after I saw some of his other work, I was like, nah, never mind. That's going to be a better Batman than you think.
I think that's really where a lot of people gave him a chance from. Yeah. You heard he was going to be Batman, and you're like, the guy from Twilight's going to be Batman. Yeah. And you started looking at his other stuff, and you're like, well, actually, he's got some chops.
Yeah. Still don't think I've ever gone back to Catch the Lighthouse. I know that's supposed to be one of those kind of a thing that movie reviewers like to say a lot of stuff about.
Right.
So whether or not that means anything or not. But.
Did you ever see Tenet?
I have not.
Yeah.
That's.
He was good in that. I wouldn't say it's his best, but yeah, he's one of those actors where if he's in a film, I'll be more interested in it at this point.
Yeah, Mickey 17 is the clone.
Yeah, it looks like a comedy, and just the premise is he's just almost like a factory worker, I guess, or just a maintenance worker or something like that. So, a blue collar worker, and he signs up for this program where they're going to send him on dangerous missions, and he's going to die, but then they're going to clone him to send him on more dangerous missions.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I got the impression that there was something where like they got information from his death, and maybe that information got passed on to the next clone or something like that.
Okay.
Where there's a purpose of it. They're not just killing him for killing him's sake.
Yeah.
And the basic premise is they accidentally clone 2 at one point for some reason, and that's where the hilarity ensues.
Yeah. I like the stories that do that right.
Yeah.
I mentioned anime My Hero. There's a clone. One of the bad guys is a clone, and you kind of get into this whole thing of all of his clones fought each other at some point, and he's kind of mentally unstable because he's kind of doesn't know whether or not he's a clone or he's the original.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a little bit of that in Invincible, where there's these two brothers that are clones. They're kind of sort of evil mastermind kind of guys, but they're always taunting each other over I'm the real one, no I'm the real one. And I like those, how they can kind of use that story to create some intrigue.
There is a character like that in The Boys, and they ruin him like they ruin everything else with crude humor. But it's a kind of similar situation where they're not sure who's the real one.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to, as far as I'm aware, one of the first mainstream clone stories media was Multiplicity with Michael Keaton and Andy McDowell.
I have not seen that.
It's a comedy.
Yeah.
And they all do know who the original is in that, but only because they're told right away.
Okay.
They have like a little tattoo on the back of their ear.
Okay.
So, because like when I guess spoilers for Multiplicity, right? When it first starts out, like the clone doesn't know he's a clone. It's an interesting concept, and I'm really excited to see how Mickey 17 pulls it off. I got like a flavor of The Fifth Element, one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Kind of just like the style of the world. Like from the trailer, I felt like if you told me this was in the same world as Fifth Element, I could say, okay.
Is it? I've only seen that trailer maybe once or twice, but is there like a battle scene, or is there some kind of war going on?
At one point, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, he dies in like a war situation. At one point, he dies in what looks like a rescue situation.
I got you.
I think they're just fodder.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one. When does that come out?
That comes out. It's March.
Okay, so it's
March 7th.
Sooner than mine, anyway.
Yeah. That's more imminent.
Yes.
Something even more imminent than that is Tomb Raider Remastered 4, 5, and 6. I know you're not really a Tomb Raider fan, but for me,
it's not that I'm not a fan. I just never got into. I watched maybe the second movie,
mm-hmm.
and not that it was forgettable. It just I don't remember that much of it. This wasn't my thing.
Tomb Raider, Resident Evil. There was like a certain type of action film in the early 2000s that these movies kind of go into.
What's it's the Game of Thrones guy, George R. Martin, that's doing the thing this summer with Resident Evil girl again, Mila.
Really? I didn't know George R. Martin and Mila Jovovich is doing something.
Yeah, but it's being directed by her husband again.
Yeah.
So it's just basically Resident Evil. Whatever the last one was, it's just the next. It's part 9.
In the Lost Lands.
Yeah.
Well, add that to my looking forward to.
Yeah, it's a.
I haven't heard this at all.
I hear people talking about how it's taken so long for. I guess they want more Game of Thrones stuff from him. And again, it's almost like with the guy that did Titan. Why are you going off and doing this when you have all of the other stuff? You have a hot demand right now for this product,
yeah.
And it's like I'm going to go off and just give you some random movie with Dave Bautista and
Mila Jovovich.
Is it Jovovich? I can't remember how to say her name, but
yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson. That's her husband. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he just makes movies whenever she decides she wants to be in a movie, and I guess has the tie-in to be like, hey, okay, I've got a script for you here. we're going to put you on strings and fly you around, and you kick people and throw knives, and we'll CGI the rest.
Yep.
Thus, Resident Evil 1 through whatever the last one was.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
They're fun watches. They're not like something you will probably ever register in the memory, but.
And I know, like you said, Mila Jovovich, when she wants to make a movie, she just gets her husband involved, or maybe it's the other way around. When he wants to make a movie, gets her involved.
Yeah.
But Angelina Jolie, she was the reason they didn't make more Tomb Raider films. She didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
As a fan, it bummed me out when I learned that. I was like, oh man, because I always thought, because the first one did well, and I always thought the second one didn't do as well, and that's why they didn't make any more.
Not very many times though that you have a human person that's already an actor that is the personification of a character.
Right.
And she was. I mean.
Yeah.
If you ask anybody that played the Tomb Raider games, is like, who would you want to play Lara Croft? It'd be like Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
she was a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
But this is the 4, 5, and 6 remastered is kind of, I guess, a sequel to remastered 1, 2, and 3. And these are the original Tomb Raider games from the 90s and early 2000s.
Okay.
Not the reboot. These are original Lara Croft, and these are less action game like Uncharted, less like Uncharted. More puzzle grid based, but they're great games. I've never played 4, 5, or 6, so I'm looking forward to them. And one of the things about 6 that I'm really excited about is it's Angel of Darkness that was on the PS2, and people were very critical of it. It was buggy, hard to play. And apparently they're going over that and kind of just smoothing everything out. They're fixing a lot of the problems. They're even including content that was cut. So it's like going to be like a director's cut for that, or a developer's cut.
It'd be what it would have been if somebody invested full time and money into it the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Tomb Raider Remastered 1, 2, and 3 were just like fantastic. They were the original games. They up-res the textures. They had more complex models for all the 3D models.
Yeah.
But the world geometry, understandably, stayed the same, because if you change the world geometry, it would no longer be grid based.
Yeah.
You know? So it wasn't. That's why they're calling them remasters instead of remakes.
Yeah.
Because if they remade them, it'd be more like Uncharted.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to that, and that's just coming up in February 14th, 2 weeks away.
Okay.
So that's right around the corner. And the other thing I wanted to mention that I just saw yesterday is this Spawn Gunslinger. I saw it in the comic store. They have 2 issues out, and it's just I love the aesthetics.
I know absolutely nothing about that other than I would walk into the toy store
and you see
when I was still doing
figures.
G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers. So I don't know what time frame that would have been, early mid 80s at the latest.
Well, the McFarlane toys was early 90s.
Okay.
So
I remember seeing those at some point and just being like, seeing these crazy figures, and I'm like, what is this about? Mm-hmm. And never buying any of them. Maybe, like I said, it might have been later high school if it was 90s, or kind of past the point of using any of my money for toys at that point. But still seeing them, I was like, well, that's kind of wild looking, but had no basis for anything. And then, of course, I unfortunately saw the movie they made. And I was like,
I liked it. I thought it was good. I liked it at the time. I haven't seen it since. I might have a different opinion if I watched it today. It.
I don't think I saw it as it came out. I think I saw it on a later release. You know, I don't think it was as recent as like being right around here on streaming, but it was.
I could see if you had already seen like Captain America: First Avenger and some of the other Marvel films, the Iron Man films. I could see you comparing it to those and be like, "Ooh, this is bad." I could see that.
I don't have any real positive memories of that. I just remember there being a clown with a lot of jokes.
I remember at the time when it came out, people were very critical of it. It wasn't very well received. But the basic premise of Spawn, you saw the movie, so you kind of the premise. Al Simmons dies, he goes to hell, and he sells his soul to the devil, pretty much. Yeah. And he becomes a warrior for the devil. But once he gets the powers, he kind of like says, "Well, I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. I'm not going to follow your orders. I'm going to oppose you." The Gunslinger Spawn is kind of in the same camp of the whole. I know of the character. I've seen images of him, kind of like Rogue with Savage Lands. I was aware of them, but I never really read anything about him. As far as I understand, it's not Gunslinger Spawn isn't Al. He's not the same person. He's someone else who had the Spawn powers before.
Okay.
Spawn powers are very much like the Ghost Rider.
But
powers.
would it be like Wild Wild West days?
I think so.
1860s, 70s, maybe.
I think so. I bought it. I just haven't read it. So
Gotcha.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I think. I'm excited. I know you're a huge fan of the Gunslinger.
Well, when you see the word gunslinger,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
automatically
Stephen
think
King,
Stephen
Dark
King.
Tower stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing there's probably no relation.
No. If anything, more thematically.
Yeah.
Because I could totally see them taking some inspiration from the Dark Tower series.
Have you read the Dark Tower?
A few of them.
We need to, whenever you're finished, they need to go into the cookie jar.
All right.
That's a discussion all of its own. But
Well, the last one I read was Wasteland, so I have a few books to go. I have a few to go.
Once you get out of the first couple, though, they really are pick up and read. Like, you'll finish. At least when I read them, even some of them are massive, 400 or 500 page books that I read like in 4 or 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's just like
Page turners.
time for dinner. It's like just go on. I'll eat later.
Those are the things I'm looking forward to. And I guess we need to figure out what we're doing next. This is where our fortune cookie comes in.
Come on to the fortune cookie.
And these are fortune cookies we've stuffed with other topics.
We had a handful. I think I presented 4 or 5, and you did as well. And we just kind of threw them in together.
Yep.
And we're going to see what happens. And got to see if I can figure out how to open one first. Give that a break. And Godzilla -1.
Oh, Godzilla -1. Godzilla -1. All right. Well,
Definitely a topic that I put in.
yeah, that was one of Joel's. That's
If
fine.
you can see slightly behind us,
Yeah, he's got a bunch of Godzilla stuff.
a few Godzilla things. That is my fandom.
And then we don't. When I was writing this, I was like Godzilla -1 or not. The idea for the main topics is I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
A little bit of catching up kind of thing. I've seen -1 a couple of times.
Yes.
So that will be the main topic. We can do some more deep diving into Godzilla as a franchise.
Yeah.
So I do want to be.
It's kind of hard to talk about that movie without talking about some of the other stuff.
Yeah, right.
So,
Right.
but again, I don't need to do any research on that. My research is over there
You already
on,
know.
on my DVD case. Even the Pluto channel that was showing just Godzilla movies 24 hours a day that I would just leave on when there's nothing else to watch. But
I'm gonna have to check that out to brush up for next time.
yes.
All
So
right.
we will come around to the next one and not intro you as long because you don't need to know as much about us coming into the next one.
Yeah.
And we'll have to look for some more food. I'm going back to the Heritage Market because I literally could go there for everything. They have, that's just the very end of the aisle that I'm grabbing off of. There's a whole aisle of snacks and other things that are beyond that. So,
Well, just like media that I enjoy, I think there's I'm not going to be wanting to find food that I enjoy. I'm definitely bringing something else.
no, I'm very blessed in the fact that I can go 4 minutes up the road to this little market and probably have 3 years worth of shows worth of food to just get from there. Not going to probably bring you any actual dim sum. You got to travel a little bit outside of this area to find any of the real stuff, but we'll give you the Appalachian version.
That's right.
That's where we are.
Yep. That's Appalachian Dim Sum, episode 1. Thanks, Joel.
All right.